Hello, gamers, and happy Saturday. And for some of us, it's still morning, but for others of us, it is already evening. So my guest from across the pond joining me today is none other than Smooth DJ. Hello, Smooth.
Good
Thank
evening.
you for joining me. And
Thank you for having me, dude.
Yeah, this has been long awaited. We've been talking to each other in live stream chats for months, if not years.
Half a year at least.
I think we're both mods on Mark's channel. And I think that might be where we first met.
Mark.
Mark, hello. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, sorry. I was trimming my mustache, like trying to kind of separate it from my beard hairs, and I ended up just chopping too much off my lower lip. So I look like I have two little smiles underneath the wings of my mustache. I'm probably not going to be on cam for like 3 days because then it'll like my beard will grow in and it'll be fine. It won't look like anything. But
just blame the puppies, Mark. Just blame the puppies.
No, it's not the puppies' fault. I wouldn't blame them for anything that wasn't their fault. That would be mean. What kind of father would I be?
They can't even fight back. That's the bad part.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna look stupid for like 3 days, and then it'll be fine. But that's the difficulty in having a handlebar mustache with the beard that you're growing in underneath it, because you got to make sure that the beard doesn't combine with the mustache to become one big mass. You got to kind of keep some separation, and I just took it too low down on one side, and you always got to kind of even it out, or else it looks really weird. So, but yeah, that's my no cam story.
No worries at all.
No worries, man.
I'm glad you guys could both join me. Ryan said that he was going to be here. He's running a little late because he had some car trouble, so hopefully he'll be making it here shortly. But we're going to go ahead and get started, and he can join you when he gets here. So. As is usually the first thing we do to start off is kind of talk about what we've been playing lately. So, Smooth, what have you been playing lately?
It's quite simple, really. I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy 14 lately. I blame Mark partially for that and his wife X-Ray Girl, because they both hooked me on that game. With my good friend Tomby, who's currently streaming World of Warcraft with his wife as we speak. And I also played Broforce recently. It is a shockingly entertaining game.
I've heard that's a good game.
It's a good game. It's a great homage to like 80s, 90s, and early 2000s action flicks. Oh man, the references in that game are ridiculous. I have no idea how much time went into that game, but it is ridiculously fun. Especially when you play with like up to 4 people. It's carnage, utter carnage.
I've heard that it's a pretty fun and a lot of great Easter eggs in that game, from what I hear. So
yeah, I wonder if they continue doing that, because it's on Unity, and you know how Unity is these days. So I'm quite curious how that's going to go.
I think a lot of indie devs are switching to an engine called Godot or Godot, G-O-D-O-T. And
I heard of that one.
It's open source, so it's free. There's no like licensing fee for it. I even actually just supported right after Unity started collapsing. There was this, I think, like $30 full course on how to use Godot engine, and like I on Humble Bundle, and it was selling like crazy. So I figured I'd get one just in case like my nephew has any interest in programming at some point. But learning an open engine is a good idea, because that means you won't ever have a company that's like, hey, now you have to pay us a runtime fee every time someone downloads your game. And yeah, also
ridiculous.
Did you hear they just closed down Weta Workshop?
Did they?
What?
They bought off Peter Jackson 3 years ago.
Oh, I did hear that.
I did hear that too, yeah.
They just closed it all down. So there is no more Weta Workshop in the world. I have no idea what James Cameron's doing for the effects in the Avatar movies now, because I know he used Weta, but I mean, so.
And what I think I saw from the headlines is they bought it like 2 or 3 years ago for like $1.6 billion, and then they closed it down.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I think ideally what they were probably going to do is try to get into volume cinema, like the stuff that Disney's doing a lot for the Disney shows, where like The Mandalorian was the first big success where the room is in this big video dome and the dome gets projected for the camera. So like relative to the camera's eye, what it needs to see behind it. But the thing is, it's always projecting everything around so that the actors are still having the light of things opposing them, affecting their actual face. Kind of like, I mean, sometimes when I'm streaming, because I stream in a pretty dark room, what's happening in my game will be actively changing my lighting, right?
Like in your RPG playthrough, for example.
Yeah, or like
the red and the blue coming towards you.
Or if I just open Elden Ring and we get like the big Bandai Namco splash screen or Tekken 7 or something. But you know what I'm
blown away by that.
It's that idea, but it's real-time rendered graphics, and the reason for that is so it can adapt to the camera as the camera's moving around. That's why they can't pre-render it, because if they pre-rendered it, the camera would need to be in specific places physically at any time, because the video wall thinks that you're going to be moving that way. So my guess, and Mandalorian and all the Disney Plus shows, they're all made on Unreal Engine. So I think they saw Epic getting tons of money from Unreal Engine stuff. So they're like, well, why don't we buy the one studio that Disney doesn't own for like special effects stuff? And just use Weta Workshop to create our own Unity filmmaking program. Now I'm basing this on nothing other than just the facts that I know. Unity, a game engine developer, bought Weta, a cinematic prop house and effects house. So the only thing I could see that would make sense is that they want to start getting in on that Unreal Engine money that Disney's been throwing at them for all the shitty Disney Plus shows, you know?
That's plausible.
What ended up happening is they realized that they were in a lot of financial trouble, and I think that's why they might have had to do something as dramatic as the runtime charge thing. And I think that now that they know that's not going to help at all, and if anything, they kind of screwed their brand in a lot of ways. They're
it's a shame
to close things down. They can't afford to be paying all those Weta Workshop people. Which, I mean, you know, that's the cost of doing business sometimes.
It's a damn shame.
As much as I don't want to go to bat and defend the Unity CEO, ultimately, if it's like, okay, well, we're hemorrhaging money and we have no plan to get it back. So what are we doing with this effects house? Now, I think they were dumb for just taking the tech and closing them. I think they should have sold them. But we're also in a time in history where the entertainment industry doesn't exactly have tons of money to be thrown around. So if
they're bleeding money.
Exactly. So if Unity hoped to get their 1.6 billion back, or maybe a little bit less than that, and then keep the tech that they wanted, I think they'd have a pretty hard time finding a buyer. So as much as
the sheer amount of money they put into that company, though, my mind can't fathom that. I mean,
as much as I want to just dump on the CEO for how stupid he was for the runtime thing, it's like, well, I mean, there might have been things going on behind the scenes where they're like, look, our shareholders are about to like pull the plug on a lot of the things we're doing, so we've got to start pulling in some money somehow. And I think what they realized is having their license fee be as low as it is and have Unity be as easy to use long term and not have to be jacked for a bunch of use fees is they've like, okay, we've got to find a way to retroactively make money off all those games that we've been just allowing to make billions and billions of dollars that isn't feeding any back to us. And I mean, for engine licensing, you know, I imagine that can be kind of a difficult thing. It's probably why so many companies are switching to Unreal right now, because there's a lot of people who are trained in it, and they figure, okay, well, if everyone else in the industry is having a problem, then the problem will get fixed. Where I mean, the CD Projekt kind of learned it. I want to say learned it, but man, Cyberpunk's looking and running so well now that I'm kind of sad that they're retiring the Red Engine and going to Unreal, because I've not played an Unreal Engine game that runs well. Even RoboCop doesn't
Not
run
yet, no.
Like RoboCop, the demo I thought ran pretty well, but as you start getting out into like the open city area, that is kind of a stuttery game at times. It's fun. I thought it was really, really good, and it's not an experience ruining level of stutter, but I still have not seen.
It's noticeable.
I've not seen an Unreal Engine 5 game at all, though, that runs well. So I'm just like, why?
No. Yeah, just the tech demos.
And I mean, even
weirdly enough, that worked very well.
And the other games are all 30 FPS. Like that's what I mean.
Oh, were they?
Those tech demos are really good for showing off tech to show to Hollywood. And to make games that look like they're Hollywood movies. What I think it's for, by the look of it, is making video games. Like Liza, for example, is Unreal Engine 4, and it's beautiful. It runs fantastically. And Unreal Engine 4 took a very long time to get to that point. And it's now that people are just figuring out Unreal Engine 4, they're switching to a heavier and more difficult to use engine. So I don't know. I hope people get better with it, but otherwise, I think honestly, they don't sort out Unreal Engine's problems with how many companies have switched to it. AAA gaming as a whole might just collapse.
Yep. So the thing is, there's so many companies switching to Unreal. I mean, even Square Enix is using Unreal Engine to do Final Fantasy VII Remake, or the trilogy of that.
Yeah.
And they had it. They previously had an own engine for that game. And they were like, yeah, we switched to Unreal to just simplify the development process. And I'm like, you sure?
Well, no,
I do that.
That's not exactly the reason. The reason is because they outsourced it to a
CyberConnect
studio. Yeah, CyberConnect 2 was originally developing it. They went on to make Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, and they probably didn't have any idea how to use the Luminous engine, because no one does. The Final Fantasy 15
nobody does
did, and then all of the creatives left, and they brought in Amy Hennig and the dude who wrote the first draft of Rogue One, who I forget his name. He's on Kind of Funny, I think, a whole bunch. Gary Whitta, that's it.
Gary Whitta.
Gareth Edwards.
No. Gareth Edwards, director. Gary Whitta, who wrote the first draft, and But anyways, he came in and they wrote Forspoken, which was that was a game that came out, but it's the only other game that uses the Luminous engine.
It was a video game.
See, Forspoken is one of those games where I'm looking back at it, I'm like, why did you release this? Like who greenlit this?
The perfect video to watch to understand that is
the target audience.
Short Fat Otaku made a video that's a review of Forspoken. Like it's titled a review of Forspoken, and it's the Forspoken logo on the thumbnail, and it says foreskin in the same font. Like, you don't notice it at first, but the thing about it is, like, I think he titled the video incorrectly, because I don't think it's just a review of Forspoken. It's kind of a history of the last 20 years of Square Enix, and in particular, Final Fantasy and the idea of custom engines for Final Fantasy game. Because there's been two. There have been two custom engines for Final Fantasy game. The engine that they used to make the 13 games, and the engine before they totally scrapped it and built a new engine, and then the engine they used to make 15 and Forspoken, which they've now scrapped and are never using.
Oh, you're talking about Final Fantasy. I thought you were talking about the game 13.
No, Final Fantasy.
No, Final Fantasy 13, my most beloved gaming trilogy of all time.
Oh, really? I mean, I honestly I do know people that like it. I've never played the 13 games though, so they're.
I've played one in the first two. After that, I was like, nah, screw this.
The one with lightning.
Lightning's in all three, or in the first and the third. All three. I thought she's gone. Isn't she gone during the second one? Or because you play as her sister?
You play her sister and some random guy, and you get some Mass Effect gear when you connect your save file for Mass Effect with 13.2, which is very weird.
Yeah, they did.
This is weird cross promotion.
They did the same with the
Dragon Age and Mass Effect makes sense since they're both BioWare, but what's the connection with Final Fantasy?
Kingdoms of Amalur.
There's none.
Kingdoms of Amalur.
That
had armor.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
I forgot about that.
Their whole thing was just like, hey, Mass Effect's really big. We'd like to get this to as many people as possible. Like, so if you want to do a promotion, help bring your fans into Mass Effect. I think, like, honestly, I think marketing like that's fine, especially when it's not like, hey, you get to be Batman in Mass Effect. Like it's Fortnite style stuff. It's just it's armor that's kind of designed to look like it's from the world of Kingdoms of Amalur if it were in the future. Yep. So it's like,
have you seen? Speaking of Batman,
was a good game.
It was. Have you seen the Tetsuya Nomura designed Batman figure that's on the Square Enix store?
No, although that does.
Dude, that figure looks ridiculous. I need to find it. Hang on. Maybe I can find it.
If you find it and share it, I'll show it.
Nomura, I think, is a very good character designer and artist. I'm iffy on his abilities as a storyteller. I don't think they're terrible all the time, but I don't think he's great. There's Nomura-isms in the newer Final Fantasy games that I'm not altogether thrilled with.
Well, luckily, he's not the lead writer of the next 7 games. So
Oh, really?
that's
Okay,
actually,
that'll probably be a good thing.
yeah. I mean, I've played all the Kingdom Hearts games, so I've seen some shenanigans going on in his storytelling. But man, oh man, let me see.
Well, I guess with Final Fantasy, the issue a lot of people are having with it is that, especially the ending, makes it pretty clear that it makes it pretty clear that it's different than the original. That it is not just a remake. Yep. Oh wow, it looks like Batman Beyond.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Now.
But there was some earlier designs that make him look like Bahamut blended with Batman.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I kind of see that now that you mention it.
It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy.
Wrong one. All right.
But yeah, what else have I been
playing? I'm bringing
recently?
it up so everyone can see it.
Yep.
So
that was ridiculous.
That's I wouldn't even think that's Batman, but that looks freaking awesome.
It's a Final Fantasy character designer's take on it, I guess.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, who made Cloud and Sephiroth and all those guys.
And Lulu from Final Fantasy X with all the belts.
His absolute work there.
Mm-hmm. He was trying to piss off the designers of the game with that.
When I was in the UK, I was actually talking to Aiden a little bit about Final Fantasy X because that's her favorite one that she's played a whole bunch of times. And I'm like, honestly, I'm at the point, because I only played it once on PS2, that all I remember about Final Fantasy X really is Lulu.
Mm-hmm. That's the majority of people. But honestly, play it again. It's actually not that bad anymore.
I don't imagine.
I used to cringe.
Also, I think that the scale for what is a good Final Fantasy game is a tricky one. I've actually even made a couple videos talking to people about that, and it's I don't know, man. I
remember the discourse about 16.
Yeah, it's still pretty straightforward from what I remember, though. I mean, it was a little on the linear side, I'd say, because I only remember there being a few big areas that you can start exploring and doing endgame stuff in, but most of it is kind of almost like a movie game style. But a lot of
it's fairly straightforward. It's fairly straightforward.
RPGs are like that, though, where you only really get to explore towards the end of the game when it's like, okay, now you have one goal, defeat the god or whatever with the power of friendship and anime, go find gear and level up and grind for like 60 hours and then try to find
it works
and do another 60.
I mean, on the topic of what else I've been playing, I also played currently replaying Metal Gear Solid 3, the Master Collection Edition. Boy, oh boy.
Is that good?
It is good, but you need to apply some mods to it to actually make it run good. So
I heard the one thing that's got me to consider buying that on a dirt cheap Steam sale at some point, or if I get it in a Humble Bundle, not just giving the code away, is that I heard someone made a mod so that you can do the crouch walking that's in the 3DS version. Yep. And it's one thing that I don't know why they never patched it into the Blue Point remaster, because I'm like,
I never understand that either. That's so easy to do.
Yeah, and the crouch walking was the big thing that Peace Walker, I guess that was the thing I always saw the argument on side scrollers yesterday, that Splinter Cell did give to Metal Gear was crouch walking, and Peace Walker was the first one they put it in.
I remember that vividly, actually.
Did it come out before Peace Walker? I think it did.
I was talking about a very similar thing on Open Mic the other night, how it wasn't until like AC Unity or AC3 that they added that into Assassin's Creed franchise. It's like, what took so long?
It is ridiculous how long it took them.
It was definitely Unity, which is why I was so pissed when Unity ended up being the first one that I really hated, because I was like, finally, crouch walking. Jesus, I feel so stupid having to run around when I'm trying to be stealth.
Yeah.
But, or just walk slowly, fully upright. It's like, man, dude, try to maybe make yourself lower profile. But
I'll say this
argument on side scrollers yesterday. The thing was, it wasn't necessarily Splinter Cell versus Metal Gear. It was
we were talking about that in chat.
Fisher versus Snake as characters, and I'm like, guys, Sam Fisher doesn't have a chance in that debate. No. Not even a chance.
Not even close. Not even close.
Like Sam Fisher, I'm like, guys, come on, Sam's fine. Sam is Jack Bauer, basically. It's just kind of what they have him be a really deep voice guy. They even got the president from 24 to be his handler.
Yep. Funnily enough, they did, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The guy that played the president in 24?
Yeah, Lambert.
Yep.
Lambert is president. Oh, God, what's his name?
Oh, God. I've not seen 24, so I don't know, but I know
blanking
you're
on
about
the name. Hang on.
But Dennis Haysbert is his name, right?
James Heller was as of Live Another Day. Before that was David Palmer, I think.
David Palmer, yeah, that's it.
Palmer. I think it was 2 actors that played him, but yeah, he was in there too.
Really?
Kind of nuts.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know another actor played him. That's weird.
James Heller replaced him in Live Another Day, the movie, or whatever that was.
Oh, that like the TV special they did? Yeah, I don't think I ended up watching that. I think that takes place in London.
I think so, yeah.
Like, oh yeah, and John Boyega's in it, isn't he?
No, I thought that too. It's somebody that looks just like him, though.
Might be a twin or something.
I saw the cover and I'm like, oh, it's John Boyega. Then I actually looked at it, I'm like, oh, it's not actually John Boyega. It's just someone who looks just like him.
That man, I could have sworn it was John Boyega because I actually thought, oh, awesome, the guy from Attack the Block is getting more work, and it was right before he announced to be in Star Wars also. So I was like, oh yeah, cool. This guy's
honestly, I feel sorry for John Boyega to a certain degree because all his career choices destroyed by Star Wars now.
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, it's his own choice. Attack the Block was great. I love that.
Yeah, it's
that was fun.
It's London Street Toughs meets Gremlins. It's pretty good.
Yeah, his name is Corey Hawkins, but on the cover, he looks exactly like John Boyega.
That's nuts. So many lookalikes. Man. Yeah, but Metal Gear Solid 3 is a fun game. I mean, it runs well on Steam. I was rather shocked because I heard that a lot of bad things about the port. I mean, granted, the historical footage looks terrible in the re-release.
Oh yeah,
it looks exactly like you imagine it when you try to upscale it. It is grainy as all hell. I was just shaking my head. I was like, wow.
I don't know
on earth
much of the historical footage. I've been playing through it on my emulator, but now my computer's in the shop, and apparently either the motherboard or the CPU or both, which I bought that were fresh in box when I dropped them off, are defective. So for the last 3 days, I've been trying to figure out which one it is so I can buy a new part and just get my computer finished. But you guys haven't seen me streaming a bunch. Part of that is part of the reason why.
Makes sense, yeah.
That sucks.
I can stream console games, but I finished Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, which I strongly recommend, especially if you're a Yakuza fan. But even if you're not, if you just want to see what the Yakuza series is like, I think this is a really good one to try. Not that
Zero.
It's not a great. Well, see, the thing is, Zero is a full blown game. The reason I say this one, like Man Who Erased His Name, is it's canon, and it's what Kiryu is doing during Yakuza Like a Dragon. And because of you have this gadget that's like a wrist lasso that you can pull enemies in. It's like a watch.
I've seen some videos of it.
Yeah, cool. you get rocket boots and stuff. There's a bunch of spy gadgets because basically Kiryu is presumed dead, but the Japanese CIA effectively faked his death, and he's essentially an undercover agent for them. And so I thought it was going to be just a spinoff. Like they have the Ishin spinoffs that take place in feudal Japan. There's been a Yakuza game that's a zombie shooter where Tokyo gets
Dead Souls.
Zombies. And you have to, it's like a third person shooter. So I thought this was going to be another one of the crazy ones that I could skip and it would be fine. But I saw it on Game Pass and was like, maybe I'll give it a shot. Why not? And then I was like, oh man, this is a lot of fun. And then as the story started picking up and you start learning more things about why Kiryu's in this like secret agency, it's like, oh wait, this is just what he was doing during Yakuza Like a Dragon, and with the game ending at the part in Yakuza Like a Dragon where Kiryu shows up. So that's like where this ends. But most Yakuza games are like 16 to 20 chapters. This one is 5. So
wow, that is surprisingly short.
Yeah, but like the thing is, it's a side story, and I hear it's lower price. I think it didn't launch at the $70 price point, but didn't really ever think about it because it's on Game Pass. So I just like, I want that. I'll play the Yakuza game that I was going to skip, and I was like, oh, not only this is a game that I absolutely am so happy I did not skip, but it's kind of it's so tight and the story's so good to the point that in the epilogue, I actually was like tearing up. Like it was very emotionally affecting, and it's lots of fun from beginning to end. It's a really fun like street thing. You got to think like Streets of Rage style beat 'em up meets JRPG. So you have a town you walk around, and instead of getting into random battles, street gangsters just pick fights with you, and then you have a little beat 'em up sequence. And this is still the real time Yakuza combat, like traditional playing as Kiryu stuff, not the Like a Dragon turn-based. And the writing is like S tier. It's like really, really, really well written stuff, and I recommend it.
I love the balance between the seriousness and the wackiness in the Yakuza games. You have like very serious story beats, but you also have this wacky karaoke stuff and beating the living crap out of people in the streets.
Yeah, like that's the thing.
But at the same time, there's a good amount of humor in
it. Yeah, the gameplay itself is very wacky because this is a world in which you're just getting into fistfights as you walk down every block. And people around you are like kind of scared when it's happening, but the second the fight's over, they're just like, "Oh, thank God!" and they go back to their normal day. Like there is an element of silliness to the premise, but when it comes time to actually have a story, it's I guess people were making the ludonarrative dissonance argument in my chat, where it's like, "Wait, but like Kiryu just like stabbed and sliced a whole bunch of guys there. Why is he talking about not killing?" I'm like, because these battles,
Kiryu never killed anyone, never.
Oh, that's the thing. The battles almost kind of exist in an alternate dimension in which all weapons.
It's in Kiryu's mind.
All weapons do a fixed amount of HP damage. So guns do a lot of damage, but they don't act like guns do in the real life. They just act like a high damage weapon in a video game that you fire the bullets out of and then it physically disappears. Like it's old school arcade beat 'em up rules of logic in that sense, like during gameplay. But then when it's time to actually tell a gangster story, they don't mess around. They tell a story with very good characters.
Would you say that it's priced very steeply though, considering the amount of time you actually get to spend with it?
Well, I mean, you'd have to tell me what the actual price of it is. I just heard that it's a lower priced one, but I don't know if that just means it's $10 less than a new release game. But
it's digital only, so let's see.
It's why I said that the Game Pass angle is probably the thing that makes it most worth playing.
On Xbox, it's $50 US.
Or you could just have Game Pass and then do crossplay with Xbox and PC if you want. Like, or I mean,
it's $50 on Steam as well. So
it's the reason I finished it on Xbox though, because I was playing it on my PC and then my PC was in the shop, so I was like, oh shit, I can still stream the end of Like a Dragon. Gaiden, the man who erased his name. It is going to be a mouthful. Well, because they've changed Resident Evil to Biohazard in North America, but for Yakuza, because Yakuza was always called Like a Dragon in Japan. The last one they called it Yakuza Like a Dragon, but it's Yakuza 7 or Like a Dragon 7, and now the new spin-off is Like a Dragon Gaiden, which is I guess Gaiden is going to be the ones that are beat 'em ups, and just Yakuza, or sorry, just Like Dragon are going to be the RPGs. But yeah, it's the words for a title.
I heard something interesting about Infinite Wealth, though.
Mine was muted, so it wasn't me.
Huh. Okay, it's gone. That was weird.
Okay, so I heard that Infinite Wealth will have a mix of both. So if you play as Kiryu in 8, you get the classic Yakuza gameplay that you used to know from from like the first 6 games. And when you play as Kazuma Ichiban, you get the turn-based combat again, like in 7.
See, that's interesting because I played the demo of Infinite Wealth that's at the end of Like a Dragon Gaiden, and even when you're playing as Kiryu, it's the turn-based combat. The thing is, though, they've tightened it up and made it a little more interesting. So in Yakuza Like a Dragon, your characters pace around, and your position on the battlefield kind of matters, but they just kind of pace the way they would to track their enemies. And you don't have any control over who your character's looking at, except for when you're targeting, and you have no control over movement. Now you have a fixed circle that you can move around in. So you can constantly be using the left analog stick to reposition your player in a place that's either safer from damage if there's a ranged enemy in some cover, or if you want to say, line it up so that your straight line attack that goes in a straight line that goes through people hits 5 enemies. You can move yourself to be in just the perfect spot to line that up and then do as much damage as you can. So the combat is improved and it is lots of fun.
It sounds kind of like Fractured But Whole's grid-based system.
It's not a grid though. It's just like you're on the same city map. And the battles don't like bring you to a new arena. They happen there. It's just, it goes into battle mode and it switches to turn-based. And when you have a turn, it gives you basically like a 3 square meter or 3 meter radius. And anywhere within that 3 meter radius, you can reposition yourself and move, which I mean, that's a span of 6 meters too. So like it's a good amount of space to walk around.
It reminded me a lot of Final Fantasy 12.
Yeah,
sense.
that's probably a better way to look at it, I'd say. Mixed with a bit of Super Mario RPG, actually, because it has the actions where you can hit the block button as attacks are coming in and then time a guard to do perfect guards, or sometimes you hit X or Y for attacks, but it's usually either tap the X button or press the Y button at the appropriate time. It's not just time a tap of that one. So, but it's a good video game though.
To think that Yakuza 7 used to be an April Fool's joke, though, is kind of funny.
Yeah, that they were like, Yakuza's turn-based now, April Fool's, and it's like, well, it is though.
Yep. And we're just kind of testing the waters to see if people want this or not. That's what April Fool's is now. They're just testing things out and to see the reaction of things. And that's how they do it now. It's kind of funny.
So, Liza P still your game of the year, Mark?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's up there, definitely.
Paul Hadouken. Howdy. What's up, Paul? You were going to say something about Baldur's Gate?
Baldur's Gate 3 would be a close second for me. But Liza P just really surprised me with just how wonderfully designed it was. So that one I didn't see coming. Baldur's Gate.
That was a surprise hit. That one. I
knew Baldur's Gate was going to be good. I've been telling people it's going to be great for years now. I even made a video on it on Geeks and Gamers 3 years ago. But and then when it came out, everyone's like, "Yeah, I've never heard of this game. This game came out of nowhere." I was like, "Guys." Like I heard Jeremy say, I'm like, Jeremy, I made a video about this game on your channel.
Don't remember it.
One of the streams I saw him on, I think it was on FNT, and I was like, you asshole.
Yeah, I found out about this game myself. Nobody told me. Sure, Jeremy. Sure.
Yeah,
bless him.
Yeah, it's been in early access for a while, so they were able to have a really smooth launch. I didn't hear anything about any bugs and glitches since they basically ironed it all out beforehand, right?
It has its problems.
Act 3 doesn't run particularly well. At that point, you're invested enough that you're willing to push through some shitty frame rate, and at the same time, it's not a real-time combat game, so the frame rate is less of a factor in whether or not you're going to succeed. It can be a factor whether or not you have a headache while you're playing the game if you're getting a jittery frame rate, which during Act 3, they're walking around the city. They have an optimizer. Well, that engine is not very good for doing big crowds, it seems. No. But Act 1 and 2, though, like absolutely perfect, I'd say. I don't really have. I mean, I guess turn-based games like that, every so often you get a weird glitch where something should have hit, but it didn't, or I don't know, like a spell ends up hurting your people more than the enemies, and but little glitches like that tend to not destroy games. Like it's like, oh well, that was that attack. I lost that turn essentially. Yeah. But I'd say both of those games are very much worth your time.
Cool. So the last 2 weeks have kind of been kind of slow for me. Looking at my progress for the month, it's probably one of the slowest months I've had in a while. The two things I've been playing the most was I was trying to finish AC Syndicate for the end of the month. But I was unsuccessful in that. I've been playing off and on since July, so it's not like I had just started it. I had already beaten the story, and I just had to play through the DLC and then go back and finish some side quests. But due to some achievements not tracking properly, I wasn't able to succeed. But I got into all of that in detail and ranted for a while on last night's Achievement Chasers with Dude. So I'm not going to go back into it. But I did not complete it. But I may go back and try to finish that before the end of the year. The thing I've been playing the most over the last weekish is because, as I've been saying, I finally have a PC that is powerful enough to run PC games for the first time in a decade, because the PC I've had up until just a couple months ago was like 12 going on 13 years old, but I never got it with the intention of gaming. So, but I now have one that can run PC games. So this last week, when there was the big Steam fall sale, I picked up some games, and I've been hooked on playing Satisfactory.
Damn,
it's been a lot of fun. Because it's funny, when I was talking about it on open mic on Thursday night, it has a lot of base building and crafting mechanics that are very similar to Subnautica, which is one of my favorite games of the last few years. I love that game, and it's
It's a good
funny
game.
because we'd been going for like an hour and 15 minutes, and I hadn't mentioned Subnautica. And the moment I mentioned Subnautica, Paul Hadouken shows up in chat, and he's like, "Of course, Neo's talking about Subnautica." But I was only talking about it. I was only talking about it because it has a lot of similar elements in the building crafting mechanics as
It does.
Subnautica, and I'm really enjoying it. I just need there's a lot more to the building because that's the goal of the game is building, whereas in Subnautica it's an aspect of the game, but it's not the goal. So I've been watching some people who are like watching some videos of like people who played for like thousands of hours and build these like crazy factories. I'm like, I have no idea what's even going on there. So I'm following. I just found a streamer who's basically just started a new playthrough, and they're putting like a new video every couple of days. So I've been following him to kind of get an idea of like how I can do things better. So that's basically what I've been playing the most lately, and I've been having fun with that. And being an achievement hunter, there's no achievements for it, so that's kind of a bonus, a gift and a curse because I'm playing it and not getting achievements, but I don't have to worry about getting any achievements. It is in early access still, so they may add them later on, but I do know there are other early access games that do have achievements, so I know it's just up to the developer.
Neo loves Subnautica.
Yes, I do.
Well,
I talk about
could
it
you
on
tell,
almost
Paul?
every stream.
How could you tell?
And Paul says Dabs, that's his lady friend, would be great. She's all about building and crafting games. So yeah, so Satisfactory has co-op. So if you guys got it, we could all play it together.
Ooh.
So
Good shout.
I do not. I've never been great at building stuff in games. So yeah, that's why I probably didn't get into Starfield very much.
Because the first game I'd ever played that had like that crafting mechanic was Subnautica, and because I liked the whole aquatic theme of it, because there's not, games usually have the stigma of like anytime there's like a water level, it's like the worst part of the game, but like the entire game is water. There's only tiny bits of land you actually walk on, at least in the first game. The second game, Below Zero, there's actually a decent part size of the map that you do actually walk around, but in the first one there's 2 small islands and then your crashed ship that you came from, so it's basically all underwater. So I was like really interested in that, and I fell in love with the game, and so that was really my first experience with crafting games. So moving on to Satisfactory, because a lot of the other thing I've been mentioning is a lot of those god games, I call them, where you have like the isometric top-down view of like Command and Conquer or StarCraft, but in this one, in a lot of these building games, they're not. There may be a little bit of combat, but that's not the focus. It's more building. But a lot of them are this, isometric, godlike view. But Satisfactory is like Subnautica because it's all in first person. So I've been having a lot of fun with that.
Sounds good.
So all right, and with that, we will get into our topics for the day. So. I always like to ask the guests if they have any topics they would like to suggest, and Smooth suggested a few topics. So we're going to start off with the first one that he suggested, which has been a topic of conversation in a lot of different chats and live streams over the last couple weeks. And we are going to be talking about favorite video game soundtracks. So I think we may have briefly touched on this as a side topic in a previous party chat. But I don't think it was actually the question itself that we were talking about. It just came up because we were talking about something tangential. So since Smooth, this was your question, why don't you start us off?
Well, I gotta say the quality of video game music has improved drastically in the last few years. I mean, if you look at the GameCube era, for example, that introduced us to orchestral soundtracks in a sense, right? I think it was the Wii era where Mario Galaxy came out and they made the fully orchestrated soundtrack in the end. That's when it really took off, and it is absolutely nuts how video game music has evolved in the last few years. My favorite soundtrack of that in that regard is probably the Nier series. Those soundtracks are mind blowing.
I know it's a popular franchise, but I don't know anything about the music of that game.
The music itself is so good. I mean, I've got almost every part of the soundtrack on CD, and that's a testament to how good the soundtrack is, because I don't necessarily buy everything from a game, but that soundtrack was really good.
I have a feeling X-Ray Girl's probably not watching right now because she's in LA and busy, but let's just say that there might be some Nier music under the Christmas tree for her this year.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear.
I think she's pretty busy right now, so she's probably not watching.
She is, yeah.
Well, she got into Nier Automata this year, so and that was kind of her game she played this year. I'm so proud of her because I'm like, wow, it's a good game. Thank you.
I did not expect her to play it, to be honest, but I'm glad she did.
Well, I mean,
Nier Automata is amazing music.
Paul agrees. Says Nier's music is amazing.
I don't think Hexer Girl is technically bisexual, but she does really like waifus. So she her game with a good story and have her playing as a sexy waifu, and she's like, "Oh, this is fun." I mean,
it's the same.
I mean, it's a testament that she cosplayed as the character for Halloween.
Yeah.
Oh, she was 2B for Halloween?
Yeah, she bought that costume on her own too. I didn't have anything to do with that.
Nice. Yeah, I saw your Mario, but I didn't see anything from her, so that's cool.
The only costume I ever bought her was for the last episode we were doing of our Fate Unlimited Blade Works thing. I got her to dress as Rin Tosaka and kind of walk around in the background.
That's the cosplay she did this year as well.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
It's a costume she had.
Mm-hmm. Let me think. What else was there? Metal Gear Solid 2, definitely. The soundtrack by Harry Gregson Williams is still great. I mean, I've recently replayed Metal Gear Solid 2 on Xbox because it's still backwards compatible on there, and man, the soundtrack is still holding up very well. I mean, when it comes to soundtracks, I am a sucker for those, especially like the Final Fantasy games. They usually have pretty damn good soundtracks as well. And what else did I recently listened to? The Cyberpunk soundtrack is pretty good. I like that one. And the what else did I listen to recently? I think the Baldur's Gate 3 soundtrack deserves an honorable mention there as well, because that soundtrack is also pretty damn good.
And it's not very big either. Like there's not like a ton of songs on the Baldur's Gate soundtrack, and they play a lot of things over again, but they're really flexible songs that I think they use well. And like the way the story's written, they've got enough themes that they can vary between, that they can just be like, okay, play emotional sad music now, play battle music now, play boss battle music now. And then you have the fight against the devil is so good in that game.
Oh yeah,
the vocal song where there's actually singing. It's really
my Steam friends just popped up saying they're playing Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, you will be given the chance to, but yes, you should fight Raphael because it's the boss. It's worth it for the song, honestly.
I remember you telling Tomby to just wait for the song to kick in, and I was sitting in his stream that day and was like, man, I want to listen to that again.
Yeah,
it was so good. It was so good. Paul says the Mirror's Edge soundtrack is pretty good too.
Every time that we've talked about music and Paul's in chat, he's always like, Mirror's Edge has a fantastic soundtrack, which it does.
It is absolutely great.
I haven't listened to it since I played the game probably close to 10 years ago, but I remember it after he mentioned it. I was like, oh yeah, it was really good. Solar Fields was kind of funny. He was telling me about in chat in open mic some time ago.
It's kind of funny looking back at like soundtracks, and then you remember how old some of these games are that you're listening to the soundtracks with, and you're like, damn, it's that long ago. How the Persona series deserves an honorable mention on my part as well. I think that really kicked off my addiction to video game music and actually buying stuff from the games itself.
Speaking of the age thing, I think someone told me this, and it like kind of like semi blew my mind when someone said that the release of the Xbox 360 was closer to the release of the Super Nintendo than it was to now.
Ooh, that's a good one, Mark. That's a good one.
The release of Vice City is closer to the 80s than we are to the release of Vice City.
Yep.
Yeah, stuff like that. It's like, oh my God.
That is so true.
And I was born in the 80s and played Vice City when it came out. And yes, it really did seem like a game that was about long, long ago.
Yep, like, it really was. It really was.
But I shared a link in the private chat, and that is one of the original songs from Lies of P. That there are several in the game, and you can play it. You can play it on this here. We can listen to a verse of it or so because they don't get claimed at all. And I think it's great that they did that. That they said, okay, we don't want these songs getting content ID'd, so that streamers will actually listen to these songs we made in full. Because listening to the music in Lies of P in full actually has a gameplay effect, because you're Pinocchio, right? So you're learning to become more human, and experiencing music is one of the things that makes you feel more human. So you're incentivized every time you get a vinyl record in the game to bring it to the gramophone that's in the hotel and actually listen to the entire song. And it's a bunch of Korean.
I love that.
Okay, yeah, we can listen to it for.
This girl's great. Song's beautiful.
Close your eyes, come to me, feel alright. Just dance with me all through the night. Turn it out, close to you. I feel good, 'cause I just know feeling of you. Give it to me, baby. Feel alright. I feel good. Just want you to step with me, dance with me, here with me, feel alright. I feel good on you, alright. To make a groove all night.
We'll stop it. But
And this was Liza P. Okay, so it's got kind of a like a 20s swing vibe to it. So when it comes to music,
it's like vocal. I think I'm echoing, so I don't know if. Okay, I think
I was sharing the audio.
I was hearing myself back. But yeah, so I think that it was a very good game, and I think the implementation of music is not only very good, but they wrote original songs that, as you can see, are quite beautiful. Which is why it blows my mind that Disney, instead of making all these like remakes of their old movies that had good songs, just like make new animated movies with good songs. Like, you can still do that. People still write music, you know.
I mean, if music is very important to the media we play and consume, really, isn't it? I mean, if the soundtrack isn't good and it doesn't convey the emotion it wants to convey, it doesn't work half the time. And that's
perfect example of that is if you ever watch the end of A New Hope, the ceremony without the music, it's changes
so weird,
it dramatically.
Yeah.
That's just
like so weird, isn't it?
It would be very boring. Although I have a feeling that in that scenario, they would probably have a band playing, like as they were marching up.
Probably,
you would assume, right?
Music is all as they're having like a march up for an honor, like a military honor. I don't know if the rebels have like a brass band or something, but
yep.
But yeah, exactly. It conveys the point you're making very well.
The thing is, I mention that story quite often, but Nier Automata actually managed to make me cry, and that's like one of the very few games that managed to do that. And it's just because of the music and the how it works together with the scene that's playing at the same time, and you're like, wow. And I'm usually not quite emotional when it comes to like movies and all that stuff. I think the last thing that made me cry was Lord of the Rings, the third one. When Frodo was doing his goodbyes with Gandalf and all the others, that was probably the last time I actually cried during the movie. So then you have that with video games as well. And man, soundtracks are very important. It counts for trailers and for the game itself. If you have crappy trailer music, it just doesn't work, because it can really change how people perceive your game.
I remember when they were advertising Doom Eternal and they had that rap music in it. Like, what the heck is this? That's not the music that goes with Doom.
Wait, rap music in Doom Eternal?
Yep.
You never saw that trailer?
No.
Oh yeah, they had some rap music in the Doom Eternal trailer.
The Mortal Kombat X one got hit on a lot for having mumble rap in a Mortal Kombat game.
11 as well.
I forgot about that too.
But yeah, no, I don't remember it for Doom, because it would seem really silly to me to use anything but like heavy industrial metal to like that
is industrial metal, literally.
Yeah,
that game.
I'm not gonna play it because I'm pretty sure it would get claimed, but yeah, definitely go look it up. And it's like, what were they thinking?
I don't know what this trend is with rap music being used for trailers all the time. I mean, I used to like rap music quite a lot until like the early 2000s. And I used to edit rap music as well, but man, the music they use for trailers these days, not even close. And the rap music they use for MK, like Paul just says in the chat there, It's the same that Mark said. You don't want to use mumble rap for trailers. It is stupidity.
Paul's
It's
agreeing
utter
with you. The
stupidity.
rap music in the Mortal Kombat was atrocious.
It didn't.
It was. It didn't
like,
work.
no, your Mortal Kombat, make it 90s EDM, man. Everyone's okay with it. Trust me.
I mean, they tried to bring that back with MK1 with the Dave Bautista trailer, didn't they? When he was yelling the Mortal Kombat slogan.
I
They tried to bring that back.
Maybe,
Man.
but geez, that game is not a reboot of Mortal Kombat. That is Mortal Kombat.
It's not.
Everybody. It's just,
I've seen you play it.
Are we talking about MK1, the one that came out recently?
Yeah, it's
MK12.
Very, very bad. It's the story is actually a lot worse than the story in 11. I know.
I was shocked how terrible that story was. I was like, how can you be so bad at it?
One character arc was okay. Reptiles. That's it. Reptiles is the only one who had an story.
I don't know anything about the lore of Mortal Kombat, but I watched Melee James play through almost the entirety of Mortal Kombat 11 just about a week ago, and he was telling me about how bad it was. It was like,
yeah, well,
it is atrocious.
One from there, it's gonna get worse. It's gonna get more Disneyfied.
Not knowing anything about the franchise, that last act though was pretty entertaining.
The last act of MK1?
Yeah, with going up
the Armageddon
pyramid.
bit.
But I mean, you understand though that like that destroyed all the stakes in the story. Like nothing mattered anymore because it's just like now there's infinite versions of everybody all fighting for the
MCU.
Okay,
it's
so
like the MCU.
You guys understand though that now this timeline is just fucked. So, like, why are any of you going there to fight when it's just going to be people coming in from all sorts of different dimensions to fight each other for eternity?
I'm kind of pissed that they wasted those guest characters on this game though. Like,
yeah, well, I mean, ultimately, I think they probably have been wanting to move Mortal Kombat into just being about the guest characters. And I don't think they can find a way to integrate that into their stories. But because they set that standard for NetherRealm's game, have these cinematic stories that you play with a character for 5 or 6 fights, and then you see a cinematic, and then you play with another character for a couple fights, and then you see another cinematic. And that's a good format. But the scripts have been getting worse nearly every time. I'd say Injustice 2 was not horrible as like a little DC story, but I mean, you know, it was maybe like mid comic book quality at best. So I'm not even saying that Injustice 2 was incredible, but I think it did less stupid things than Mortal Kombat 11 and 1.
You can tell the writers hate Flash though. Yeah, boy, oh boy, he's getting done dirty in those games.
I mean, that game is the only thing that made me even remotely excited to see the film Blue Beetle, and I never did end up seeing it. But Blue Beetle and Mortal Kombat, or not Mortal Kombat, Injustice 2 is quite fun.
Okay, cool. So
another soundtrack that just comes to mind is the Hades soundtrack. Oof, it's been done by one guy who also does the singing in the game, and he's also the voice of Zagreus, and I think it's Darren Korb. I think he's doing the music and the voice acting in the game, and man, that soundtrack's so good.
I'll throw it
really good.
For Hotline Miami as well. 1 and 2 both have really good soundtracks.
They're
a lot of them are like EDM DJs and stuff that are famous. So it's not just an original song for. I mean, they are original songs for the game, but it's not like one guy wrote the entire score. It's a bunch of different.
It's multiple people. Yeah, that's true. Also, it's kind of funny that you bring up the EDM DJs. There was I think it was one DJ who actually had a cameo as a skin in Mortal Kombat 11 as Sub-Zero.
Oh, really? Who?
I think it was Dimitri Vegas or something. He actually voiced the Sub-Zero as well, and it sounded terrible.
Yeah.
Was it better than Megan Fox?
And Megan Fox sounded worse compared to him, funnily enough. and that's a feat. I mean, Megan Fox was phoning it in, to be honest, but man. No, Deep Rock Galactic, that's another one.
So Subnautica to me is like Deep Rock Galactic to Paul. So he has to mention it all the time. So
I watched him play music too.
Not a lot of it. Very much like Deep Rock Galactic.
Very
like
subtle.
Paul is saying, there's not a lot of music in Subnautica, but the music that is in there is really good. And I haven't played Deep Rock, so I can't say. But apparently, it's very similar. And there's not a lot of music, but it's pretty good.
I mean, what it comes down to is good sound design. If it doesn't matter if you have music playing, but there's something going on. That's what irked me a little bit about Breath of the Wild when it came out. There was too little going on in the background for me, because I'm so used to having this epic music playing when you play a Zelda game, right? Like the Hyrule Field melody playing all the time. Then when you play Breath of the Wild, it's like these tiny hints of piano playing in the background every once in a while when you move, and you're like, "Where's the music?"
Yeah, I can agree. I was never crazy about the music choices, and really either Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, but both of them are pretty sparse in that respect.
Yeah, I was wondering what the idea behind that was, because I never understood that. I mean, the great games themselves are enjoyable to play, and when you do get music, it is quite a delight. I mean, the Goron village music, man. I've seen an orchestra playing like the majority of the Breath of the Wild music, and it sounds so good. I was like, why is this not in the game a lot more? You know, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So because the first time I think we ever really talked about music soundtracks on my channel was when I had Angry Canadian on for open mic, because he's a big video game music guy. And I've got a couple other friends who are big into music, like Paul and DJ Axis. But
shout out to them.
But yeah, Angry Canadian is that's like his thing, is video game music. So I've not really paid a lot of attention to music in games over the years. So talking to a lot of these people who are all about music, it's like I gotta pay more attention to it. So some of the stuff that the soundtracks that I'm a big fan of are kind of, I guess, more normie takes, because a lot of these, I was like, as I play games going forward, I'm definitely going to keep an ear out to pay more attention to music than I have in the past. But because I haven't paid much attention to music, it has to really, really, really stand out to me in order for me to like go outside of the game and listen to it, like on YouTube or Spotify or whatever. But the games that have done that, at least recently, are some of my favorite Metroidvanias of all time. The Ori games, Ori and the my goodness, I just blanked on the first one. Blind Forest, and the second one, Will of the Wisp, which is my favorite Metroidvania of all time. The music in those is gorgeous. It's all very like kind of ethereal and orchestral. It's really beautiful music. So I've actually listened to those outside of the game a few times because they stood out to me that much. And then on the other end of the spectrum, what we were talking about earlier with that garbage rap trailer is the recent Doom games, because I do love
the Mick Gordon music.
And I know Mick Gordon wasn't involved with Doom Eternal, but I think both of those soundtracks are very good. I love the metal music.
I mean, it is a testament to good music if people make memes of your songs and put them into other scenes of TV shows and movies. I mean, just I think the only thing they fear is you comes to mind from Doom. Right, it spawned to me when the Doom music kicks in, and it's
Doom Eternal, but it's still really good. That's a fantastic song. I always thought one of the funniest things I ever saw on Twitter was the guy who runs New Blood, the studio that released Dusk and Medieval and Ultra Kill. He posted this thing saying, "Alexa, set algorithm, security alarms triggered, lights all shut off." Loud sound of shotgun being cocked. Only thing they fear is you begins to play.
That's awesome.
Lights go up and then you just hear. Oh my god! If I was a home invader, I'd be so scared.
That's so good.
That's awesome.
It is so good. I mean, I've seen 2 or 3 scenes. I think It's Always Sunny, Punisher, and I think it was Nobody, where they added that music into a scene.
Oh, was it?
And man, it kicks the scene up to 11. The scenes are already quite good that they use, but the music, it's so good. Honestly, just watch the Punisher escape scene from the prison and just listen to the music that they added into it. Man,
are you talking about the Punisher Netflix Marvel show? Okay.
I think it was Daredevil season 2.
Yeah,
I think.
Daredevil. Okay.
Punisher in the prison.
Yeah, but Punisher was in it. But yeah, when he's escaping the prison cell, man.
I was like, I don't remember that being in either the Thomas Jane or Ray Stevenson Punisher movies.
No, sadly no. But
it is. I would argue that's one of the best Punisher action scenes, though. The
It is
It's
100%.
good.
It is.
And then on the older end of the spectrum, I was just playing it again last night because I'm a big fan of Mega Man and the Mega Man X trilogy on Super Nintendo are my favorite Super Nintendo games. I was playing Mega Man X last night, and that for 16-bit audio has such good music.
It is surprising how good the music is, actually, for the Mega Man games in general. I mean, they made the best out of the technology they could use and the limitations they had. I mean, just listen to Mega Man 2, for example. The Wily's Castle
DJ
theme.
Axis's favorite.
Oh, man. Yeah. I
Wily.
listened to Axis remixes those tracks so many times. It's
nightmares.
absolutely great.
I remember getting through Mega Man 2 with my friend Keith's house, who actually I interviewed on Human Cyborg Relations. And
Cool.
when I finally taught me how to beat Wily and I beat him, I was so happy, but it took a long time. I probably had to go to his house like 40 times to get through that game.
Yeah. Remember when games used to be tough? You have to take a long time to beat them, memorize passwords and all that stuff.
They're still pretty tough. Yeah, there's still difficult video games out there. But Mega Man, though, I think is a good example of a game that is probably only about 40 minutes long. That is very, very difficult. So
the longest 40 minutes of your life.
Oh, yeah. I got to shout out Paul. He's got a cover of the Dr. Wily music. And
Dr. Wowie.
Mega Man 2 has a great soundtrack. I'm more partial to the Mega Man X, particularly 1, 2, and 3. But I have a playlist.
Those are the best ones.
I have a playlist on YouTube of just Mega Man X metal covers from a couple of different YouTubers. One's Toxic Eternity, and the other is Family Jewels, and they are phenomenal.
They are great. Yeah, they do some really amazing covers. I mean, I've listened to some of their battle theme covers from the Shin Megami Tensei series, which is the overarching series of Persona. Okay. Man, the covers from Family Jewels alone that he does for the battle themes, that's some kick-ass shit right there.
Yeah. And then the last thing I was going to mention, good music in the Zelda franchise. My favorite Zelda of all time is Ocarina of Time. It just has great music. I remember
that's a lot of people's favorites.
The first time coming out of Kokori Forest into Hyrule Field, and the Hyrule Field music kicks in. I just felt like I was exploring like this vast new world for the first time. It just and then you meet that freaking owl that never shuts up.
Hey, listen.
That too. But I don't have hate for Navi like most people do. I found that owl more annoying.
She's not as annoying as Fi from Skyward Sword.
Thank you. That is what I talked about on, was it last party chat or 2 party chats ago? We talked about like most annoying characters, and that was mine. Was Fi from Skyward Sword.
They nerfed her a lot in the re-release for the Switch. Luckily,
that's what I've
thank
heard.
God for that. But man, when she wouldn't shut up about your battery, Master, your battery level is running low. Master, your battery's at 20%.
I thought of her as Fi, not Fi, but I've only played the Switch version, so I guess that's all. I'm like, I don't think she was that annoying. She's fine.
Mate, you should play the Wii version of that game. It's disgusting how annoying she is.
I shall not be playing any Wii versions of anything.
Stick with the Switch version.
Did you know that
I love Twilight Princess though? It's my second favorite, just behind Ocarina by this tiny bit.
They did a funny tweak. They did a funny tweak for the Twilight Princess games, by the way. On GameCube, Link is right-handed. In the Wii version, he's left-handed because of
the motion control.
It's pretty. Or was it the other way around?
Link is left-handed.
In the Wii version, he's right-handed because most players
with the sword.
Exactly.
Yep. So they mirrored the entire game for the Wii, which is pretty funny.
Yeah,
I never realized that until I played the
whole game.
Oh, that was Twilight Princess.
That was Twilight Princess. Yeah, they mirrored the entire game.
But Skyward Sword they developed for Wii. It was Twilight Princess that came out on both Wii and GameCube. And the Game version is correct, and the Wii version is mirrored.
I didn't know it was the entire game. I thought it was just Link's character model.
That was the entire game. That was the entire game.
They didn't have another way to do it, and they realized that if they force Link to be left-handed, no one's going to like playing it because they're going to have to slash the sword with their left hand. It's going to feel weird.
Yeah. Can you imagine using a sword with your left hand if you're right-handed?
I was worried about that before the game came out, and then they flipped it. I'm like, okay, I'm okay.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness they did.
And then Paul's coming in here with the ever-present meme of Kay mocking me for Ocarina of Time. Ooh, it was Link to the Past, your favorite too.
I understand why people like it. I personally think it's a bit overrated, but I understand why it has such an influence on people.
Yeah,
I like the 3D remake that they did for the 3DS. That's a good version too.
Yeah, it does run a lot better too. And actually, you can get that one to 60 FPS if you emulate it. You can't get the original one to 60 FPS without breaking the game, though. But
that one's a bit iffy to emulate, I heard.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a source port version that's being worked on. So eventually there's going to be like a perfect PC version of Ocarina of Time.
Don't tell Nintendo.
I mean, they won't be able to stop it because the source code's out, and it's not like the people working on it are doing it on public servers where they can, like they're saying, yeah, it's me who is working on doing that port. But I would strongly recommend looking at the source port of Jak and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy.
Oh yeah,
that's incredible, and it really makes you think what is going to be possible for preserving games if the companies that make them aren't doing anything to preserve.
If they actually give a damn.
Naughty Dog's done nothing with Jak and Daxter for a decade and a half, I guess.
So Sony forgot about them.
Yeah. So, and they're not available on. I guess you can emulate them on PS5. I guess, or I don't know. Did they let you download PS2 games for that?
Yep, the PlayStation now lets you download the majority of PlayStation 2
well,
games.
I mean, then maybe you can play Precursor Legacy on PS5, but you definitely couldn't when this came out because I remember
it runs terrible though because it's kind of the terrible emulation. It runs terrible.
Oh, okay, because it's like that's the thing with the source port. It's not emulating. And there's a difference there. So you're still taking a PS2 ISO file, so the PS2 disc, and running it through the source code decompiler. And that's like the code. And basically what that does is it takes a PC port's coding for Jak and Daxter and unravels all of the game data and then inserts that where it needs to go in the PC port and creates a native port that you can upscale the graphics to 8K if you want. You can have it running at an unlocked frame rate or like a 265 FPS frame rate, and it doesn't break the game because it's a native port. It's not them trying to trick the PC into thinking it's a PS2. They figured out a way to extrapolate the game so that it's just running on PC, even though it
does make you think though why Sony's making up excuses why they can't port their games though. It does make you wonder, doesn't it? If randos can do it.
The only reason is we want to find a way to start making money off you the way Nintendo does off their back catalog. And which is why I argue, as much as I like Nintendo games, because I mean, this year, most of the games I like the most are Nintendo. If we're going to say one company, but I hate their business practices because they make it impossible for you to play their games. And now it's like,
it's true.
Nintendo Online, you could just go on there and play anything. It's like, yeah, you're renting games and it's not every single game on NES, Super NES, and N64 either. It's a selection.
Those games that are on there, can you buy outside of their Nintendo Pass?
No,
I didn't think so.
You cannot own them under any circumstance. Never mind a physical copy if you want one of those. Like, don't even.
God forbid you pirate them. God forbid.
So that's the thing. It's like so if you own these games, your best bet is to, like I do, find a means that you can rip your cartridges onto your PC and then just run it in any emulator you want forever.
Yep.
We got our buddy Ryan joining us.
Hey guys, sorry.
How's it going, man?
Hope your car stuff's gotten figured out.
No. I'm glad you guys are still live. I didn't. I was kind of concerned. I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna miss the whole thing. But
don't worry, man.
So
but the thing with piracy is Nintendo made it sound immoral to do it. But then again, if you don't make your games available to everyone, and just with a rental service, that's the issue.
You have to make them available.
Well, it's the same with the 3DS games. I mean, you can't play them outside of the 3DS anymore. I own a copy of Fire Emblem Awakening, a physical copy, which is hard to get nowadays, and you can't play it outside of the 3DS unless you mod your 3DS or get like some some cartridge that you can play it on PC. But
Yeah, I mean
Oh,
that's what I
it's
would say to
impossible.
do. It's like, yeah, the way you can play that game now and have it upscale is to just find a cartridge that you can use to, or like it's basically like a USB thing that you can use to put your cartridge in, and then
Yep.
extract the data, and then run that data in something like I think Citra. Citra is a 3DS emulator,
Citra.
yeah.
Yep.
And then run it in Citra, which is how I got Samus Returns running at 60 FPS in my video. That game sure as shit does not run at 60 FPS on 3DS.
Hell no. Hell no.
It wasn't until a week before my video came out that the 3DS mod, the 60 FPS mod, became stable. So when I found that out, and just that I already had my video finished and was figuring out when I was going to release it, I replayed all of Samus Returns to capture new footage. And then I just re-edited the Samus Returns segment and then finished the video. So the last game
That's commitment.
Samus
That's
Returns
commitment.
the third time.
So, well, despite us talking about video game piracy and how Nintendo puts customers between a rock and a hard place because they only let you rent their games, we were almost wrapping up on our first topic of talking about video game soundtracks.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
You didn't miss much.
I wish I had my applause button because that's a new record for the stream.
Hey guys, you know I go on EFAP sometimes, right? Like I can make the show long if you need it to be long.
Yeah, but
I have got plenty
is
of time.
insane.
So.
Like I think they're all crazy people on Adderall, and that's how they stay up all night.
It took us 40 minutes just to get through what we've been playing, and then we took another half an hour to get through the video game soundtracks. More than that now. So
time flies, huh?
Three main hosts, though. One is in Wales, one's in Arkansas, and one's in Australia. So what's all night?
Oh, for EFAP?
Yeah, like
that's a good point. It's a good point.
So,
they got 3 different time zones to work with. That's the crazy part.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't get that often.
It's nighttime for Mahler, mid-afternoon for Rags, and I guess the morning of the following day for Fringy.
Mm-hmm.
So not to keep us going any longer, not that it matters how many questions we actually get through, but Ryan, what are some of your favorite video game soundtracks?
Here's the goo.
Oh, one of them is definitely going to be Mass Effect. I'm going to say the third one.
Yeah,
the third one is my favorite because the way the game ends, of course, is very powerful. A lot of people were kind of grumpy about things, but the final soundtrack is just incredible.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, and even I was actually okay. So 12, 13 years ago, I had a major surgery. Right, I lived in Florida at the time. So it's probably about 11 years ago. My mom had to fly down, kind of like help take care of me because I was like, dude, it was major. So I'm playing this game, right? And I finished the game, and she walks in, she's like, whoa, what are you doing? She's like, this is a downer. And I'm like, it's the end of a gaming franchise. I'm like, it's 3 games, a lot of years. And she's like, oh, it seems so sad. And I'm like, well, it's kind of sad. Yeah.
It's supposed to be like that.
Yeah, exactly. So
I'd have to go back and listen to it, but I do remember the credit song from the first Mass Effect was awesome.
Mm-hmm. The soundtrack to the trilogy still holds up. I would argue, still getting used for a lot of memes as well. One of the songs.
I didn't write it down, but I thought about it earlier and I completely forgot to mention it. One of those images that you can hear is the Halo starting screen, which is the Halo spin in the background.
Yeah,
you hear the Gregorian chant.
Choir. Oh,
that's chef's kiss.
The Mjolnir remix of that one that they made later on for I think it was 2. Man, that was a good one.
Yeah, there was a lot of great the songs in the Halo 2 soundtrack were great, and then some bands did like covers of them, like Breaking Benjamin did one for Breakaway,
one of my favorite bands.
Breakdown.
Breakdown.
Breaking Benjamin is awesome. I saw them live.
Them.
They were fantastic. Breaking Benjamin did a cover of one of the Halo 2 songs, and that song is dope.
Melanie
Hoobastank did music for it. Hoobastank, who else did the music for that?
Oh yeah, Hoobastank did one too. That's right.
For Hoobastank did a song for which game?
Halo 2.
For Halo.
Really?
Halo 2. Mm-hmm.
I forget which one it was, but yeah.
Many people don't know that, but yes, they did. Many people only know them for The Reason, that song that was their breakout song.
Their first 2 or 3 albums were all really good.
I covered
Yeah,
one of
I
their
do.
songs. I used to do like gigs where I'd play like university pubs and stuff, just like playing an acoustic guitar and singing. I used to play their song "Running Away."
I love that song.
Mm, that's a good
Yeah,
one.
it's a good song. Hard to sing, but I managed to make it. I don't think I could do it right now. I'd have to train my voice to hit those high notes. They were pretty high.
Offended? That is
I think that would
high.
be incredible content for your for your channel. Do it.
I've never really done
Do
any
it.
singing on YouTube, although X-Ray Girl and I are going to be at Chrissy's content house, and I know that a lot of the people she works with really like karaoke. So I guess if you tune into those streams, you might hear me singing.
You might hear it.
I know
Mm.
Mark talked about in the past doing some rock band tournament a couple party chats ago.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, that would be something that we could, and I would think of it less as a tournament and more that like it would just be fun if at a meetup we could play Rock Band.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think you were just talking about one time when you actually did that.
Oh yeah, no, it was less. It was a tournament in the sense that it was like everyone's high scores get kind of tallied up and you win a prize pack. It was more like a giveaway that it's like, yeah, we'll have a contest. That's probably the better term for it, because it wasn't like a Rock Band tournament where people were coming there specifically to play Rock Band. It was an EA set up a little booth on a stage at a university at campus quad. Which,
Man, I miss Rock Band and Guitar Hero.
I did
I
the
miss
same.
those.
Whoever wants to see the place where I won that Rock Band tournament, just watch the
That's right.
remake of Total Recall, because there's an action scene like in that quad. I was just like, oh, okay, well,
Oh,
That's right. You were talking about that.
I never got into the Rock Band or the Guitar Heroes. My favorite was actually kind of the prequel to that started everything. It was the
DDR.
Karaoke Revolution.
Oh, karaoke revolution.
That actually I come from
DDR would be funny too.
DDR, yeah. No, I mean, and that's
Dude.
kind of what kicked off Karaoke Revolution, right? Because it was Dance Dance Revolution, then Karaoke Revolution.
franchise. Like I said, there
Yep.
was Beat Revolution, or I think they started calling that one like Beat Mania. That was like a
Beat
DJ
Mania.
actually. And
I think there was a Beat Revolution. Yeah.
a cousin of mine brought me a copy of that on Game Boy Color from Hong Kong when she
Damn.
wanted to go visit her mom, who was there teaching English. And the reason I wanted it is because it had the Metal Gear Solid theme on it,
Nice.
Wow.
and it was very hard to play on a Game Boy Color.
I bet.
Yeah, that's not really a great console for a rhythm game.
all four of the directional pads, directions, so like up, down, left, right, and B and A were like across this line, and you had to like go move between those. I was like, oh man, this is really tough.
That sounds almost as bad as the Guitar Hero port for the 3DS.
I was
With
just
the
going to mention that.
buttons?
I had
Yeah,
it was
they-
Guitar Hero on tour for the DS. I had that. And
Mm,
my hands were a little big for it, but I actually got pretty good at it.
mm. I was like, how are you supposed to play that? You get like arthritis from that if you play too long.
it would.
My hands would cramp.
I think what you would have to do is hold your arms further away so that you're picking.
Like a proper guitar, right?
Think if you're playing with a guitar, you want your fret hands need to be on the frets they need to be. So you can't move those anywhere except the place they need to be to play the notes. But your strumming hand can be right beside your fingering hand if you want. Like as long as you strum the notes below that, you'll make sound. It won't sound very good. That's why you're supposed to play like over your bridge or like between your bridge and the beginning of your neck staff. And so that would be the way to do it to be comfortable, because then you just feel like you're trying to be fancy and play the guitar by strumming near the fingerboard, because what you're doing there is you're hitting the buttons of this like kind of this peripheral that was made specifically for it that had like 3 buttons on it or 4 buttons or something.
4.
Yeah. And strumming on the touch screen. So if you're holding it in front of you, that would be really, really hard on your wrist, because you'd be cranking your wrist in towards you and then cranking your elbow in towards you and then your wrist back out to get to where it would need to be where you're playing guitar, which is, facing towards you. So like your finger pads facing towards you is where the orientation you'd want them at. And if you're doing that in your lap in front of you, that could be really uncomfortable. But I think if you're holding it further out, it might not feel too bad. But I've actually never played it. So
For me, it wasn't so much the wrist; it was more of the fingers having to be like, because normally I'd want the buttons like out here, but because of the width of the DS, it had to be like over here, and it would cramp my fingers.
Oh yeah, okay, that's rough. You probably want to put a peripheral on it and just make the 3DS bigger, like a battery pack or something. Or
Didn't they release that? Oh wait, that was the 3DS later on, where they added that extra circle pad. That was the 3DS.
Yeah, I had that. That was the way you could play Metal Gear Solid 3 on that thing, and it wasn't horrible. And
that was probably the best version of the game, honestly.
Its frame rate kind of sucks, but I mean, 3D.
Well, it's still a good game.
But I think they actually did make some improvements, like the crouch walking, which is why it's that improvement is stranded on that version.
Sadly,
yeah,
it is.
I have my physical copy of it. I can see it right now. So, and I still do have 3DS and the big shell analog pad thing, so I could play it if I wanted.
I want to. Am I sharing it? No, not yet. Just so you can all see what it looked like. It went into the bottom of the DS, and so you would. Can you guys see my mic?
Well, yeah, they only have 4 buttons.
Yeah. You were strumming above where your fingers were, and the only way that would be able to feel good at all is if you're holding it further away from your body. Otherwise, your left hand, your left wrist would be cranked at such a weird angle if it was in front of you.
So you strum the pick across the right screen, and the notes would come down on the left screen.
Your elbow would have to. Here, I think the best way to look at your forearm would have to be past the midline of your elbow. So your forearm would have to be closer to the world than it would be to you.
Yep.
Yeah.
If your elbow is turned in and you're turning your wrist out, that's going to mess up your wrist.
So, but it has good music on it. Some stuff that I learned a lot of music from a lot of the Guitar Hero games because I wasn't really into a lot of music before then. So I got.
Made you appreciate the songs a lot more when you played them. That's what I liked about the Guitar Hero games. I mean, granted, it's not note perfect, but it makes you appreciate the craft a little bit more.
You understand the rhythm and you understand the times at which your left hand needs to move.
You know which game took the piss in that regard though? The Metallica game.
I never played that one.
The difficult making that one.
I was in a rock band at that point, and that one was a Guitar Hero stuff, right? So
that was Guitar.
I missed that Metallica.
Yeah.
That Metallica one is surprisingly good.
It was the only spin-off I kind of did want because I always loved playing Metallica songs in Guitar Hero, and I was like, I would like that, but I didn't have a Guitar Hero guitar handy at the time, like where I was living, so I had a Rock Band set up, so I was like, I'll just stick to Rock Band.
That was the game that introduced double. Yeah, the Van Halen one was good. The Metallica one introduced double pedal drums into
in Guitar Hero.
The Guitar Hero series.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I guess it was after World Tour. Oh, maybe I had the World Tour controller because I got it. It's the only rhythm game that has ever had Tool in it. Yeah, Vicarious.
Oh, that's right.
Vicarious, the Pot. Lateralis, I think, was the last song that was in it.
Or Schism was in there as well.
Schism?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure Schism was in there.
Yeah, that was the second song I think that was
maybe
playing.
Lateralis wasn't on there, and Schism was the song that was from Lateralis. That was. I'm pretty cool.
What a tool,
man! Mark the toolbar.
Well, I'll tell you this much: if at the Content House thing they have Stinkfist by Tool on karaoke, you will hear the best I can sing. That is the most difficult song that I can sing perfectly.
I can imagine you doing a good growling voice as well, but considering how you talk to JoJo sometimes with the JoJo.
Yeah,
the
if I want to really my voice like this, it's actually not too tough for me to do.
What you doing, bub?
I saw Paul Hadouken. Just want to say Power Couch Nation.
I would never sing using that voice, but my singing voice for Stinkfist in particular, I think it's the most difficult song that's kind of perfectly within my range. Whereas there's songs I can sing that are kind of out of my range, but I can make them work. And but at the same time, I would never pick those up first to be like, okay, you want to hear me sing? Stinkfist is probably the song I'd pick because I'd be like, this is the most impressive thing I can sing.
Just sing Baka Mitai, you'll be fine.
So, Ryan, you got any others to mention before we move on to question 2? Finally,
wow.
Nope, okay. We're good.
You sure?
Question 2.
I think
an hour and a half later.
Yeah, so I know we usually keep it to an hour and a half due to Ryan and Mark's schedules. So do you guys need to bounce out here soon, or you got a little bit more time?
No, I'm pretty much free today because I have no computer.
Yeah, I have about another 30 minutes, kind of for the same reason. So I'm good. Yeah.
All right, we can.
Good.
I think this next
Good
one
to
will be much shorter.
Yes, I
I'm
think
gonna-
so too.
Well,
Hey, Ken.
I'm gonna jump down one question because one that I thought I really want to talk about. We'll get back to that one if we got time. So, question
Mhm.
2 we're going to do today is what is a game that you wanted to like and just couldn't get into? You ended up not liking it.
Oh man.
Oh.
Christ. I pitched the question, but I never really thought about it too much. I think it was before I played Elden Ring, it was the Souls series. Bloodborne kind of started that itch in me that I wanted to play them, but I was never really good at it. But what games I really wanted to get into, but never really could get into, were some strategy games, like the Civilization series and all that stuff.
Okay.
I could never get into them. I can see other people playing them, but I just don't see the fun in playing it myself. Or World of Warcraft, for example. It's kind of funny
Oh,
because I'm
yeah.
playing Final Fantasy 14 with online now, which is my first MMO ever. But I could never get into World of Warcraft. I saw my best friend play it every once in a while, but I was like, this is not for me. Somehow.
Yep. Yeah, that's mine, dude. I've played. I know I'm kind of jumping in because I don't want to forget. I've played MMOs, Dungeons and Dragons Online. I know that's really old. Star Wars Galaxies. That's really old.
Wow, Galaxies.
Yeah, no, I got
That's
in on the
super old
tail end
school.
of Galaxies, and then Dungeons and Dragons
All right.
Online came out shortly after that.
I
I
need
still
to rock
like.
your grandpa.
What the fuck, dude? What the hell? No, I
I'm just
kid.
giving
I
you a
kid.
hard time.
Star Wars: The Old Republic, I still enjoy. But yeah,
that's
I
a good
could
one.
never get into World of Warcraft. Like,
Okay.
I
No.
even play Fortnite online with some of the guys from Vets Talking and who are also
Oh,
police engineers.
Fortnite.
Yeah, no, I feel you, dude. I didn't play Fortnite until there was no build and it was just nothing but like melee, right? I just don't get World of Warcraft. I don't get it.
No, I think you have to be a player from day one to actually get into it nowadays. But I can understand that aspect of it. Fortnite is another one, actually. You mentioned that one, Ryan, because one of my colleagues from my old job tried to lure me to play that, and I gave it like 3 weeks time, but I was like, no, this is not for me. Nowadays, it's the biggest
Did you play the
media
one with the
juggernaut
building where they build like towers and see that I don't get. I don't understand that part of it. So like just playing Fortnite where you're like running through a city as a team, that makes sense. But building a
team
giant
deathmatch
tower,
aspects.
I don't get it. So I guess even half of Fortnite, I understand. I don't get it.
I mean, I enjoy being creative and all that stuff, but I don't like building towers and all that stuff during a shooting game where you know you can get killed at any instant, and the map's ever so shrinking and closing in on you. I could never get into it. It's kind of funny when you really think about it, how big Fortnite is nowadays. It's like one of the biggest IPs you can think of. I mean, you get Peter Griffin and Solid Snake in the next update. You thinking to yourself, Peter Griffin and Solid Snake? I was like, what the hell? And it's buff Peter Griffin as well. It's not the fat one.
Now. Like I can't hate Konami more. Like now they're just like, yeah, Snake's in Fortnite. I was like,
you know what the kicker is? They even introduced Old Snake from MGS4 in that game. He's an old skin for Snake. You think to yourself like, why?
So
it doesn't make any sense.
Paul agrees with the MMOs, can't get into them, understandable. But his
it's a time sink.
Was Monster Hunter.
Final Fantasy 14, I'm telling you, it's like 3 of the best Final Fantasy stories you've ever played. I guess so far, and I'm not even at the most recent expansion, but
we're reaching in on we're ending Heavensward soon, so we're
right on. So yeah, you're getting to some really good stuff, especially the ending of Heavensward is awesome, and the between patches between Heavensward and Stormblood, those are really good as well. And
we're currently going through those with Muirden, and we're going to be a party of 4 very soon, so it's going to be quite fun. So I'm looking forward to that. We get more and more people hooked.
Once I have my computer back, I'll start streaming Stormblood again. But
if you need more people, just let Tommy and me know. We'll be there. Just let us know. Right on. Yeah, Monster Hunter I can understand, Paul, because that is a series that has its wackiness to it as well. That is it takes a lot of getting into, and especially the tisms that game has with how you attack with certain weapons and the reach that you have and the timing of your attacks and all that stuff sharpening your weapons, trapping the monsters and all that stuff, I can understand why it's a bit jarring for beginners. Because my first Monster Hunter was World, and I had a very hard time getting into it at first.
Same here. I found the thing that got me into World once I started playing it and didn't understand it really and thought I was going to end up not liking it is Eric's did some weapons videos where he basically says, okay, if you want to learn to use sword and shield, here's how you properly use sword and shield. And you might say, oh, well, it's a sword and shield in an action game, whatever. Like hit X to attack, Y to strong attack. It's fine. It's like, no. Because Monster Hunter isn't that kind of game. Monster Hunter, you need to know the specifics of exactly how to properly use your weapon and then get really, really good at using the most effective things at the most effective moments. And that's
figuring out the weaknesses of the enemies as well.
Yeah, and it's really important to actually put time outside of an actual hunt figuring that out, because you're never going to be able to. It's the kind of thing that I don't think anyone can properly learn how to use, say, the charge blade by just fiddling around with it. There's no chance.
No, you need to test the weapons as well. That's the important part. Go into some low level hunts and then try the weapons out and see if it's for you or not. Because I made the mistake of starting the game with a longsword. And
longsword's fun, but it's also longsword's a difficult one to use too. So it's like, you got to be really precise with the longsword. So I'd say the sword and shield is probably the best melee weapon for a beginner. And as much as Insect Glaive, the one I use, is pretty technical, I think it's also pretty easy.
Very beginner friendly.
Yeah, being a beginner at Insect Glaive, you can do okay. Whereas you're going to be an average Insect Glaive person for a very long time, and then eventually you'll start getting really, really good. But learning how to properly use the buffs and things, that's what takes the time.
That's the important one.
Knowing where to shoot which monster to get your basically Insect Glaive, you have 3 different types of buffs that are different colors, and you get them by shooting some insects at the monster in their head, their tail, or their legs, a specific part of their body, and each one gives you a different buff. And the buffs stack and make each other better. So you get, if you have the red buff and you get the orange, it's both. Your red one is now even better. And then if you get the white one on top of that, you're more powerful. So you're really incentivized to always have all 3 of your buffs at all time. And you become a great Insect Glaive player by just every time one of your buffs runs out, you've already summoned the next one and you're charging it up again. So it's like you never lost it. And so Monster Hunter tactics. It's learn the living hell out of your tool, and then you can use it well, and you'll understand. But it's the learning curve in Monster Hunter is tough if you don't understand, and it's almost impossible if you don't understand it's that type of game.
Yep. If you think it's a typical hack and slash like Dynasty Warriors or like the old God of War games, you lose immediately.
Or if you just think I just need to learn a couple combos and I'm fine, it's like you'll do okay.
That's not how that works.
You'll do okay for the beginning of the game, but no, the monsters are going to get a lot harder, man. And and they do.
I remember when Rise came out.
That's the easiest one for beginners, I'd say.
Yep.
Out of all
especially with the grappling hook and all that stuff, it makes the game a lot easier.
It's actually tough to go from World to Rise, but if Rise is the first Monster Hunter game you ever play, I think you made the right choice.
Yep, especially with the co-op functionality in that game. I think the co-op works a lot better in that game.
Yeah, Monster Hunter World, it's a little on the tricky side. It's confusing. It's not too bad once you know how to do it, but it's not putting a party together in Destiny where it's just okay. I'll open my friends list and say invite. Okay, it's done.
I spoke to Neo before the show about Destiny briefly, and I said to him it's very important that you have a group of people that you can rely on in that game. Not play with randos who don't know what they're doing.
Oh yeah, especially if you're doing something like a raid. The raid, there's no way you can do that with just random.
No way.
People always said, why don't they do matchmaking for the raids? It's like, if you play a raid, you'll know.
Yeah, you want to
exactly what we were talking about beforehand.
Yep.
So let's see here. So, I was going to say that I can kind of agree with the MMO thing in regards to WoW. Not that I ever really wanted to get into WoW. I did play it for one day because I had one of my buddies in real life is a huge WoW player, and so he's like, "Hey, let's. I want to have you come over and we'll just play WoW all day one day and see how high we can get you." And So that was kind of fun, but I had never played it since. But I never really wanted to get into it, so I couldn't really say it's something I wanted to get into and just couldn't. I could see myself getting into it. The only MMO I've ever actually played at length was Star Wars: The Old Republic, and I did have fun with that. Definitely more fun when I was playing with people than playing solo. Which is,
see, I'm the opposite, man. Like I love Fallout 76. Like, and I get it. It was buggy from day one. This is gonna be my fucking. This is gonna be my thing where people are like going, oh my god, this guy.
Fine.
I was a beta tester on it. I saw all the bugs from the beginning. I liked the premise of what they did, but I never played with anybody else except for like maybe one time. I teamed up with a dude and I was like, never again. And I played the whole entire game by myself. So I like an MMO because it's a grand world and it can actually be expanded upon. The thing is that I don't like people, and quite frankly, I don't want to play with you, motherfucker. Like, that's just the way it is.
You know, Ryan, I can kind of relate to that bit because I used to hate online co-op multiplayers. I stopped playing online games after Modern Warfare 2, the original. I was like, fuck this, I'm not playing anymore. This is stupid.
Yeah.
So I just opted out to play like single player games a lot. But funnily enough, ever since I got my good gaming laptop and generally Steam, and I realized that there's a lot of potential in online co-op again. I mean, I played the Gears of War series.
I mean,
the Gears series. That was fun.
Like I said, I'll play like, online games like, so of course I've played with some of my friends, the Legion of Me members and stuff I was talking about. We've done Fortnite, we've done Party Animals, that's a lot of fun.
Animals.
Yeah. We do a lot of crap talking because we're all veterans, so we swear like sailors. we get weird.
That's what you do.
And so that's a lot of fun, but like as for playing with strangers, it's just not my deal. So, and that was one of my big criticisms for the Old Republic when it first came out. It was not catered to actually be able to play by yourself. There were a bunch of places. What's up?
Final Fantasy 14 is probably the perfect MMO to play if you just want to play alone, because other than
they tweaked a lot of stuff.
Even honestly, even the raids that you have to do at the end of the Realm Reborn, that you can just queue up with those. Really, you don't necessarily need to be taught them. Follow the group and play your role the way you've been playing it as that class for 50 levels at that point, and you'll be fine. And you like that one, you actually do need people though. So you would need to be playing with other people. You don't need to know them though. You don't need to ever talk to them. You can just match make in.
That's a good thing.
But the whole game, you have to do the story stuff alone. It's not a game that you go through the story with your friends. The only thing you party up for at all is when you're doing a dungeon. So every time you hit a dungeon in the story, you can invite your friends in, queue up, and then they can come in to help you through that dungeon. Or you can queue up with randoms, or you can bring AI in. Because in all the story dungeons, you can just have AI squad mates and just be
AI is not terrible.
They do their job. Like they're just mediocre. Like they're average players. But so you will have to do more work to succeed than you might if you were playing with people who are awesome. But at the same time, like you can do it, and you can play everything up to where Smooth's about to finish. So not everything he's played. If you do want to play alone and don't really care about making friends, that's the ideal way to do it, is just play for free until the end of Heavensward. Because I actually didn't even utilize that, so I was paying for it during that time. And the reason is because most of what you're paying for is the social features. So you only really need to pay if you're planning to play with friends until the end of Heavensward, but that's still like 2 Final Fantasy games worth of story.
Yeah, I mean, I've sunk 185 hours into the game already. I'm paying for it because I used to have a subscription to them when COVID happened, but I just fell out of that game because the friend I played with just stopped playing because he got annoyed with me that I couldn't catch up with him. Because he was like way ahead. He was probably
get on my level, scrub.
Yeah, get on my level, scrub. He's mildly annoyed.
I think one of the things too that kind of bothered me a lot about MMOs in the past is that their prices their monthly subscription was a lot higher than what I would say most average players want to actually engage in, right? So I think Star Wars Galaxies was like $20. It was like 19.99. You know, I when the Old Republic came out, I think it was like 25.99 or something like that, or 24.99. But World of Warcraft was the most expensive at like 29.99, and I'm like,
Yep.
I don't want to play this game that much. I just don't. Like you're expecting me to play this game like every day at that price, and I'm just not going to do it.
Well,
And
Basically
quite
$1 a day,
frankly,
isn't it?
I don't think a game is.
I was just going to say, I'm not going to defend Blizzard's pricing on that one, but I think the idea is that if you're an MMO player, generally that is just the game you play, or at least in the old World of Warcraft days.
No, and I
100%.
would mostly agree, but the thing is too is that and look, I'm not advocating for fucking normies, right? Because a lot of us come from, you know, pop
Are we normies,
culture,
though?
movie, you know, kind of like a review and stuff. Like, but the thing is that you do need to appeal to a new demographic of people to a certain extent, and like you know, playing World of Warcraft in the beginning for $30 a month, like I
That was
couldn't.
ridiculous.
I mean, like I was kind of over it in a couple of days, and I would have rather shut my dick in a book than actually continue playing for that price. It didn't. I wasn't captivated enough, and it was like I was like, all right, whatever, I'm done. It was a
I
partial
can kinda see that.
turnoff because this is half the price of a full price game. That you know, it's like I'm trying this game because you know I kind of want to, right?
Right.
And it came from the old Warcraft days. You know, World of Warcraft, you know, was cemented in so StarCraft and Warcraft stuff like that. You know, those are massive games. You know, huge fan following, but I think when they started like adding this giant price for like, well, you can play this unlimited every single day until you're dead. And it's like,
Yep.
well, you're not going to have that much content because eventually games got to end, right? So if I pay $30 a month and I play every single day for the next 2.5 months and I beat the game, then ultimately I paid over you know the asking price for a standard game at the time, which would be like PlayStation 2 or something like that, you know, $59.99. And in the it's just the adventure's over, like, and I have to wait for a patch to come out, and that's one of my biggest gripes for many games, even in today's world, right? They release them unfinished, and then they're like, well, look at this DLC, and it's like, okay, but the DLC was planned probably from the beginning, right? Or like a couple months in, but now you're releasing it for another price tag. And I think that's where we kind of got into that whole DLC, you know, kind of
Shebang.
debacle of unfinished games is because of MMOs. And I think World of Warcraft kind of led the front on that one. And like I said, I'm not bashing World of Warcraft. I think there's a free there's a free way to play now, kind of like the Old Republic.
Cool.
But even the Old Republic, I love Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. We all know this, right? Because
It's your favorite game.
more than once. But the Old Republic only captivated me for a couple of months, and then I was like, all right, I'm kind of done. Like it just
See, the thing is,
sorry, dude. Go ahead, man.
See, the thing for me is when I had this attitude back in the day that I wanted to play games that respect my time, which is kind of ironic when you think about how much time you can sink into an MMO when you actually play it. I mean, like I said, I've sunk 185 hours into Final Fantasy 14 already, and I haven't even done the second expansion to its conclusion. And then you think about back in the day how it was when World of Warcraft was first released. You didn't have that much content when you really think about it. And then the expansions came out, and they were pretty much on top of what you were paying for the game itself, and that was like $40, I think, per expansion. I think Wrath of the Lich King was very expensive when it came out. That's why.
It was massively expensive because I remember when it came out because I was in college and I was working at a Best Buy, like you know back when Best Buy was like you know an ideal place to work. And even when World of Warcraft came out, yes, it eventually overtook EverQuest, but I think EverQuest was a much more beloved game because it was more complete. And I kind of feel like World of Warcraft was rushed. And this is one of the reasons that I will defend you know, Nintendo. They don't release unfinished games. They just don't. I'm a huge Fallout fan, incredible Fallout fan. But you know, it's one of those things that Bethesda releases unfinished games, and
Yep.
now they're not as bad as some of the other studios, right? Like, you know, the bugs are it is
Yay.
what it is. But they release a complete story beginning to end, and then of course you have the DLCs to add on. But the bugs, on top of releasing what I would consider an unfinished game, is just it's detrimental, and it's insulting to video game players in today's world. It really is.
You reminded me of a game that I couldn't get into just now. Fallout 4. I loved 3 in Vegas, in New Vegas. I couldn't get into 4 for some reason.
4,
I played it for like 20 or 30 hours and I was like, this feels weird.
It
I
does.
remember actually trading it in a week after I bought it. I was like, nah, this ain't it.
Yeah, I still have it, but no, I agree with you. It
I just couldn't get into it.
I didn't like the fact that they stepped away from the mechanics of 3 and New Vegas, right? Like they started inventing their own weapons. Like, oh well, you know, you can model what, like, it was very different. I didn't like it. I just didn't like it. I'm not saying I hate the game, right? Like, I still somewhat enjoy the game, but it's not my favorite Fallout. It's probably actually my least favorite Fallout game, and that's true. And the reason is because even New Vegas, even Fallout 76 kind of went back to more conventional, actual real world weapons. Not as much as, like, you know, New Vegas, right? But so I'm a veteran. Mark's a veteran. Big military guy. I love my firearms.
I'm a small military guy.
You know, I love the military aspect. Fallout 4 just invented a bunch of crap that it's like, okay, whatever. And it changed the lore so dramatically from 3 in New Vegas. And I know a lot of traditional Fallout fans, you know, from 1 and 2.
1 and 2. Brotherhood of
you
Steel.
know, they criticize 3 and you know, New Vegas. It just, I think 4 was too much of an overreach, in my opinion.
It was
too much of an overreach.
In my opinion.
Yeah, and I think Fallout 76 corrected some of the ilks of 4. Even though the game itself was not complete. Again,
it wasn't. No,
that's it's somebody who beta tested it. You know, you got special privileges, and I beta tested, you know, Amazon's you know, New World and stuff like that. You know, you have to fall under certain guidelines. I enjoy beta testing games now as a gamer. It just fundamentally changed too much in 4, in my opinion, and they had to walk it back a little bit.
Yeah, I know 4 was kind of, a lot of people were split on it. I've only put a few hours in the game, so I don't have enough in the game to really place an opinion.
It was a weird one though.
The Mass Effect dialogue system was the problem.
In 4,
that kind of game doesn't work when you only pick the intention of what your character is saying. You need to know what he's actually going to say.
They did the same thing in LA Noire, or at least in like the remaster or something.
Yeah, they changed that a little bit, didn't they? Well, especially with the doubt and lie system. I don't know why they changed that in the remaster. That was so weird. And to piggyback to what you were saying earlier, Ryan, with unfinished games, especially nowadays when games are getting rushed out to be released on time, I feel like we are the new QA testers as gamers, because they got rid of most QA departments in most companies, let's face it. And we are the new QA testers. And it is proven, because when you look at the feedback that you're getting from developers nowadays, and especially with the patches that are being released down the line, you can definitely tell it's based on just player feedback now.
Yeah, one of the things that Mark's mentioned a number of times is, you know, just label it as early access. Don't call it a full release.
Normalize early access as a label that games release with. Because early access just says to everybody, hey, this game isn't done yet, but if you want to play it now, you can. Some people are saying,
you see the process.
You might want to. You'll be able to play. If you buy it now and it sucks, you will still have the finished one, but understand that what you're paying for now is unfinished.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. That's an incredibly simple label. Like, Mark is 100% right. early access, you bought it early, you get a week early access, like it's not done, right? Or 2 weeks early access.
Well, in the case of
No,
Baldur's Gate, like 3
They're
years.
still
Well,
it's
yeah,
kind of a
Yeah.
beta test 3.0, right? And then it's like for launch day, the company goes, well, this didn't work because we had these players that kind of like reported bugs. It's beta test 2.3.0, whatever. And then on launch day, when everybody else wants to play it for, say $15 less, then you get the players coming in, the normies who are excited about it, like going, yes, I'm like, the gameplay's great. I love it. It's so much fun. And then of course, so people like Mark, myself, all of you guys, we're going to be either beta testers or early access kind of guys, because we're weirdos and we kind of love that shit. And it's one of those things that's like, okay, cool, let's go nuts. Let's find the problems. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna, I even think I did it for the Outer Worlds too. I was
Outer Worlds had that.
yeah. So it's one of those things that, you know the people who are excited about it are going to be there very early, and they're going to love it, bugs and all.
Absolutely.
And they're going to help you work the bugs out.
I played Baldur's Gate 3, the first early access launch, like day one. The second I could buy it, I bought it and then played 30 hours over the span of a week and made a video on it for Geeks and Gamers. Because I was like, hey, I want to play Baldur's Gate 3. What do you mean? It's early access right now? Cool. I'll do a review of the early access, knowing that it's early access and saying, hey, here's this first playable version of a game that is going to happen eventually. And it was really, really good. Even the 1.0 or like 0.1 version for early access. I don't know if that's what it was called. It was probably like 0.675 or something. They're always long.
Something like that.
But
yeah,
you know what I mean? So I approached criticizing that game knowing that I'm criticizing a rough draft. That someone is like, hey, here's this drawing I'm working on. Do you mind looking at it and telling me what you like about it, what you don't like about it? And saying, yeah, I really like this character design. I think the eyes are too big and it makes him look a little bit creepy. And I think you're going more for handsome. And if you just make the eyes a little smaller, I think that'll help. And that's what they let the players of Baldur's Gate 3 do for 3 years. And it's probably going to sweep a whole bunch of different publications' Game of the Year awards this year. And I think a big part of that is because actual players who are the most passionate players, have been extensively playing the game and saying, here's the things we like, here's the things that we don't like so much. And
the gamers were singing the praises for that game for a long time, though. And it shows, because it wouldn't be nominated for the Game Awards, for example, if it wouldn't be so popular. I mean, granted, I have my gripes with the Game Awards personally, but I can understand why the game is popular.
Well, also on top of that too, I as a guy who covers, obviously, Mark, you're in the same sphere, to a certain extent. I cover pop culture, like the scene with the bear, right? It made the rounds on Twitter. It was taken out of context, and this is one thing that kind of bothers me on both whatever sides
blown out of
culture
proportion
and politics you
It
follow.
was blown, yeah.
It was blown out of proportion. It wasn't actually the real context, and it went viral, and everybody's like, "Oh my god, this game is horrendous! What are they doing?" And
Furry's wet dream.
Yeah. Furry strike again.
It's a joke at the furry's expense. I'm telling you, because it's like you have the furry and the elf vampire guy start having sex, and then it cuts to a little squirrel who drops
in the nut
and covers his eyes. Okay, I mean,
there was a metaphor hidden in that one.
They showed that as kind of a meme scene because they knew it would be funny to show the people at the conference they were at. That was a conference with a bunch of people.
It's tongue in cheek, right? And I think, unfortunately, right, and I talk about this too, like, the
other thing that I think Mark's mentioned about that scene is that you really have to go out of your way to even see that. It's not like something that's going to be thrust upon you.
Yep.
Romance Halsin. If you just don't romance Halsin, you're never going to end up having sex with him.
Well, that's the thing.
It's just one of those things that extreme events get tagged on either side, and it's so tiresome.
It is.
You know, and on Instagram, Representative Anna Paulina Luna, right? She is for St. Petersburg. I used to live there just like 8 months ago.
Mm.
She took a picture with a Lauren Boebert and Dave Chappelle, and
I
there are
heard
people
about
in the
that.
comments, and it goes both ways, right? You know, they're like,
Yeah.
on, oh my God, you realize that he has far less,
Get
you know,
bigger.
he's a part Democratic, blah, blah, blah. And that's like,
Mm.
Dave Chappelle is hilarious. I don't care what his politics are. He entertains me, and that's all I want to know. I don't
He
care.
doesn't care. He just doesn't
I-
care.
Like,
and that's the
so
whole entire
loud.
premise of video games, entertainment, movies. I don't care. Just make it entertaining. Let the chips fall where they may, and then you know what? Quite
100%.
frankly, maybe be a little tolerant of other people's opinions, because in today's world,
Yeah.
you know, I put under a comment on discussing films, you know, the movie Wish. I was like, another Disney flop, right? Because Disney is batting a thousand on flops. Somebody
Yeah.
called me a racist Nazi, and I'm like, for
Stating
saying
facts
that
makes you a racist now. It's like, how many
Disney
flops have they had in
flop.
a row?
I
It's
mean,
like,
granted, I've seen clips of the movie, especially the graphics that were the graphics when she's standing at the well from Snow White or whatever that was. The animation style was so jarring. It was like a 2.5D thing, and it just didn't mesh with the whole movie. I was like, what's going on here? Is this a Disney movie? I was like, this didn't feel Disney at all. It looked like a fan film made in the style of Disney. You
yeah,
know,
it's terrible.
it's terrible.
It's just a bad movie. But people are like going, oh my God, you didn't watch this movie? It's like,
Imagine
you're
having an opinion.
racist. And it's like, really?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
what
it doesn't make any sense.
did
People
I
are
say that was
crazy.
racist?
No, just that's everyone I don't like is, you know, insert
Insults.
Insert
insult
certain,
here.
yeah.
So,
Mhm.
but to kind of get back on track from a while ago, when we were
Yep.
talking about your Fallout 76 and playing with others, and I was talking about playing the Old Republic with others was a lot more fun playing with people in my guild. And then when a lot of people started falling off, I ended up having to play a lot of it by myself. And that was a lot less fun, which is basically the exact same experience I had with Borderlands. I played both
Mhm.
of them with like 3 or 4 different groups of friends. So I kept starting all these new characters. We'd play a few hours and then we wouldn't be able to get back together again. So I had all these started characters that were only like level 5 or 10. And then ended up playing through the entirety of the game essentially by myself, and that was nowhere near as fun as playing with the group. So those were a couple games that like I really wanted to get into, and I did play them for a good amount of time, but it just didn't have a whole lot of fun. But my inspiration for the question is I know people in because Metroidvania is my genre of expertise. A lot of Metroidvania enthusiasts consider this the best game in the genre, and I don't think it's anywhere near. So they would probably crucify me for this. But the inspiration was Hollow Knight, because that is often when people talk about like best Metroidvanias, that's like everyone's go-to. And there are so many things about that game that just hurt me and rubbed me the wrong way. I have it.
I hate Hollow Knight, but it's not amongst my favorite Metroidvanias.
Yeah, so
No,
I own it, and I will play through it in its entirety. I've played probably about 10 hours of it so far, and every time, and it's been in like 2-hour chunks, and it's just like every time it's like I kind of have to force myself to go back to it and play it just because it's not meshing with me. That's why basically everything that I don't like about Hollow Knight, Ori does perfect. That's why I freaking love the Ori games.
Yeah,
I would even say
I would definitely argue that if someone needed me to, but I'd have to probably replay both of them.
I had more fun playing Dead Cells and Ori compared to like Hollow Knight.
Dead Cells is tough to call a Metroidvania.
It's a weird one.
It's
really
like, it's a Castlevania roguelike, like a Castlevania gameplay. I mean, not design.
It's very similar. It's like Bloodstained, isn't it? Like Bloodstained is very close to the Castlevania one.
I got a bounce.
Oh, sorry.
So no, you're good. No, I'd love to stay and keep talking about this, but
we'll probably
been
wrap
a lot
up here
of
in a
fun.
few
Sorry,
minutes.
I was late, guys. And I hope to talk to you again. Shmoo, great time. So of course, Neo and Mark. See you guys soon.
Glad you could make it. You got anything to plug before you go?
Later on tonight, we're going to be doing Screaming Into the Void on Samuel the Infamous's channel. Vets Talking, Skinemax Saturday, and then, of course, Star Trek Engage tomorrow. So, but thanks, gentlemen. Good talking. I'll see you guys.
Glad you can make it.
Take it
Talk to you
easy.
later,
Later,
buddy.
man. Take care.
But yeah, I started Dead Cells on Mark's videos recommendation. I still have to get back to it. That was another one that I started due to his video, and I wasn't into it. And then not that long ago, they added some accessibility things that made me enjoy it a lot more. So I put a little bit more time into it since that happened. But I think I've done like one full run through of the game. So I still have a lot to do because they've added a bunch of DLCs, and there's like
It's a huge game.
There's like 130 achievements or something. I think I have maybe about 20.
A long time to get the true ending in Dead Cells.
Oh yeah.
So
I
have to go back to it at some point. But after they added some of the accessibility stuff that made it a little more fun, I definitely started enjoying it a lot more.
It's the same with Hades for me, because the original release was tough as nails for me, and I had to really fight my way through that one until I actually had a successful run. I think that was my 66th attempt or something like that, until I actually managed to beat the game the first time. Then it unveils that you have to beat it multiple times to get to the actual ending.
I've heard about that.
Yeah,
I mean, granted, it's a roguelike, so I knew what I got myself into, but I was like, oh, really?
I've actually never finished Hades because I was so pissed off by Hades having a second phase, because it took me forever to get to it. And the thing is, I managed my resources knowing how much health he had. So when he just all of a sudden grows another health bar, I'm just like, oh, fuck this game. And I never went back. I didn't I loved Hades. I had a great time with it, but that was so demoralizing that it actually made me quit the game.
I had a very similar thing with another game recently, and I was like, I had so much trouble. I'm like, and then I finally beat the boss, and then it goes in phase 2, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Phase 1 was nearly impossible. I don't remember what it was.
That happens a lot. That happens a lot in games I love. So I gotta specify this just for consistency's sake. The thing with Hades, though, is it's a roguelike. So when you die, you have to play the whole game again.
All over again.
You can't do that. You can't have the last, because no other boss had a second health bar. This wasn't a game that had
the only one.
Yeah,
he was the only one.
And I was like, what the hell? And I got really kind of pissed off.
I got very lucky with my RNG stuff, because I got some really good buffs for my character, and I was like, maybe I can beat him. Then I got very lucky because he had some, I think, poison on him that killed him eventually. I was like, oh, that felt cheap. Then when I tried to beat him the second time, I was like, nah, this is bad.
I might have
to rethink
that boss fight somewhere. I'd have to go digging for it, but I don't even remember what my build was. It was something really, really good. But the thing is, I had half a health bar left, so it wasn't like I was dead. I just didn't have any heals. And I would have been much more careful and much more strategic about when I heal myself. If I wasn't just thinking, okay, he's got 3% health left, I'm just going to burn him down and kill him because I've got enough health. Go toe-to-toe and end it. And then you give him another health bar. I tried, and I got him pretty close. I got him about 25% left on his health bar, and then he killed me. And I was like, I remember the most disappointed I've ever been playing a video game. And it didn't feel rewarding at all. It's not like, okay, so now go back and get him. It's like, no, like now you just actually pissed me off at the end of Hades there. And so I never went to the other heat levels or anything.
I think the game that I had that same experience with somewhat recently is when I played the demo of was it Wukong, the Souls-like? Wolong. It was Wolong. I played the demo and I beat the boss after a bunch of attempts, and then he goes into phase 2, and I'm like, I'm done.
I got like 4 bosses into that, but I started really disliking it as I went further. And that's actually the game that probably made me not want to play Lies of P, because I was like, oh man, I gotta stop just
That
playing.
ruins Souls-like experiences for you if you really want to.
I mean, it made me skeptical of non-From Software Souls games.
Yep.
Like, I was like, God, it's gonna be another game that like looks kind of good, and I'm gonna want to kind of play it for a bit, and then I'm gonna eventually get bored and then be pissed I spent the money. But Lies of P then ended up being kind of better than most of the From Software games, so I was sort of blown away by it. I'm happy I was cyberbullied by Metal Commander Mahler and not so.
Mark reminded me of video game bosses that pissed me off. I remember the original release of Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep on the PSP that had a secret boss that you could beat with all 3 characters. It was basically young Xehanort from like one of the later games, and he was broken in that game. Like he had attack patterns that you couldn't just understand when you were first fighting him, and you could break through your blocking and just continuously attacked you all over and over again. I think I died 100 times to that boss. I nearly nearly threw my PSP through the room. I got really pissed off. If you ever get the chance, look up the original fight for that one. And also the most recent one was the Yorzora boss fight in Kingdom Hearts 3, which is basically Noctis from Final Fantasy 15, but as a Kingdom Hearts character. Because Tetsuya Nomura, why not? And that boss fight took me 2 years.
Oh my
I
goodness.
prepped 1 year to prepare for that fight, and I cheesed it because I used the Little Mermaid as a summon. And I cheesed the boss battle with that one. And then I felt very cheated out of that battle in the end. I was like, this didn't feel right, but I was like just glad that I had it over with. But he was the most difficult secret boss in any Kingdom Hearts game. And I was so glad when I finally defeated him, only to find out there was a secret ending that shows you a little bit more of what could potentially be Kingdom Hearts 4. Whenever that's going to come out. And yeah, I was like, I wasted 2 years for this. Wow. I was gobsmacked in the end. But I just wasted time for that, But video games, eh?
Yeah. And the last game I'm going to mention is because also a Metroidvania that I've been recommended by a lot of my Metroidvania community. It's actually an isometric one, so it's got kind of a top-down view, and everyone says it's really good. I played it for about 6 hours, and I just haven't been feeling it. I will go back, just like Hollow Knight, I will go back and play through it and give it its full chance. But so far, the 6 hours I've played, I've just not really connected with it yet. But that's unsighted. It was on Game Pass, and I was like, because and I was going to try and complete it before it left Game Pass, and I played VR, so I'm like, I'm not feeling this. I'm just going to buy it when it goes on sale. So that is another one that I've tried to get into and just haven't yet. But it may click with me at some point, and I may end up really liking it. Who knows?
It looks like the style from the Crosscode or whatever that game's called. It has a similar animation style to it. It's interesting. I've never seen that game before. Interesting. So that was in Game Pass. Okay. Good
It was in Game Pass and it left. Let's see here. When did it leave? I think it was earlier this year.
Not too long ago, I think.
Oh, no. It was September of last year. Wow. It does not seem that long ago.
Jeez. Okay.
Already been about 13 months. But oh wow, there's a bunch of games that left that month. But yeah, that's always the biggest the biggest downside to Game Pass is every 2 weeks finding out what games are leaving. But it's always exciting when you hear what new games are coming. And mentioning or speaking of, just a couple days, like 2 days ago, there was a shadow drop onto Game Pass. Both Remnant and Remnant 2 are now on Game Pass.
Yep. If you haven't played them, give them a shot.
Remnant 2, because I haven't played that yet. Although I guess I could always have played it on Steam at any point because X-Ray Girl has it.
X-Ray has it. Yeah, I was just about to say.
I have not heard any bad things about those games, so I will probably play them at some point.
Man. You can play your wife's video games. It's nice.
Luxury, eh?
I just while she's also playing video games. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, bless her.
So that's where the Steam Deck comes in, right?
Well, actually, yeah, you're right. I could play any of her Steam games on my Steam Deck if I put it offline after I log into it.
Oh, okay.
If I log into it and she's not playing a game on Steam, and I log into that game on Steam, I will
kick her off.
It'll kick. It won't kick her off. It just won't let me play her game if she's playing. But if I then turn my Steam Deck's Wi-Fi off, then the machine doesn't know that she's playing a different game right now. So that
makes sense.
Okay. Well, I know we got a couple other questions lined up here, so we'll save those for next time. You're always
That's it.
welcome back on at any time. So I had a lot of fun talking with you guys, as I always do.
It was fun.
So, Smooth, what do you got going on?
I'm gonna play some Final Fantasy 14 with Tombi tomorrow. Probably some Broforce as well next week. We got to defeat Satan still that we still haven't done, but that boss fight is a bitch. Pardon my French, but yeah. Other than that, I'm releasing some extensions for Persona music from a mobile game that came out, which I just do on the side because I like editing music. And I'm also drawing a little bit more currently. I've done some time lapse drawings while I was in Scotland. I did the Doomslayer as well, so that's where the when the Doom music kicked in meme came from, and yeah, just generally trying out my graphics tablet a bit more to get back into drawing a little bit more, because it's a bit of a thing that I do when I get stressed out from the outside world a little bit, just to focus on something that is a bit less depressing, to say the least. You know, more sane. Yeah.
Well, cool.
So
yeah, I've seen some of those pop up. I'm like, that's pretty cool. I didn't know you were an artist.
Well, I did drawing as a hobby since I was a kid, but I never really did anything serious with it. And yeah, it's just it's a nice side thing to do when I have nothing else to do. You know,
I have nearly zero artistic skill, so I still draw stick figures if I need to.
I wish I could play. I wish I could play guitar or an instrument. I mean, I used to play bass, but I was very terrible at it. And still got an electric guitar flying about somewhere in this room, but I never really got into playing it. I tried this Rocksmith game that came out from Ubisoft that teaches you how to play the instrument.
I've talked about that a couple times with I think
my capabilities are terrible with my hands. My motorics are very rough, so I need to do something a bit less demanding with if you know what I mean. It's so I never could never really.
Huh? I can play guitar, but I can't draw to save my life.
Well, see, that's the interesting thing, isn't it? And
I can't do either.
Yeah,
I can play Guitar Hero though.
It's specific.
Rocksmith is good. Yeah, Rocksmith is good.
Yeah, it's not just general dexterity; it's specific types of dexterity that people have aptitudes with. So I can play guitar at least at a mediocre level or like an average level, and Smoo can draw. But I can't draw at all, and Smoo has difficulty with the muscle memory required for guitar. I think it's kind of interesting.
It's the same thing with people speaking foreign languages, for example, and then having trouble with maths. That's the problem I have, for example. I have dyscalculia or whatever it's called, and yeah, I'm good with learning languages for some weird reason, but I just cannot, for the life of me, do like the most overly complicated maths thing. I can add and divide stuff, but it's not like I can do like extreme formulas or something like that, like for chemistry or something like that.
Everyone's got their fortes.
Exactly.
So, yeah, Paul's saying Rocksmith is great.
Yeah,
and he's saying
I agree.
Practicing. And similarly, he can play instruments but can't draw either.
Can't draw for shit. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So. I mean, it's good. It's good. Everybody has their talents, and I'm kind of glad we're not all the same in that regard. So everybody's awesome in their own way. You know,
yeah, it'd be kind of boring if everyone is exactly the same.
Exactly. So. If you would believe Twitter, everybody has to be equal and do the same thing. But social media is not the real world, guys.
Yep.
Always remember
that. So, Mark, what you got? Anything going on coming up?
No, sort of, because my computer is still kind of pending what I need to do in order to actually make it work. Which sucks because I essentially Frankenstein my editing rig and my gaming computer into one more powerful computer that I could do both of those things on. And now that one of the new parts that I bought is malfunctioning, and they don't know which one. So they're trying to figure it out, which also makes me very happy that I brought it into a shop for the build. I just really didn't want to take the time it took to do the build and deal with the cable management. And because a lot of the parts are on the pricier side, and I got them like Black Friday deals, I was kind of scared I would end up fucking up. So I just decided, okay,
understandable.
I'm gonna just bring it to the shop, get them to do it, and not have to worry about it. Pick it up in 3 days. Hey, well, I actually have the same one, the Nendoroid for Solid.
Nice.
That took me ages to find.
I have the Venom Snake one too, the Metal Gear Solid.
That one's good.
Yeah,
I've got the PlayArts naked Venom Snake as well.
Yeah, I've got that one as well as the Big Boss, the Ground Zeroes Big Boss that they did. Who's that? Why do I not recognize?
Kaine from Near Replicant.
Oh, yeah, Replicant I haven't played too much of, but now you're right. I recognize her. I have met Kaine.
Found her Anime Matsuri, funnily enough.
Yeah, no, and I've got a F4F, first four figures, I think, snake statue that it's not nearly as chibi as the Nendoroids, but it's definitely not a serious one. It's still like anime snake, like sort of chibi snake. His head's pretty big, but it looks really solid. He's in a cool pose, and it's Metal Gear Solid 1 outfit.
I'm a sucker for those kind of figures. I mean, the Nendoroids are not as insufferable as Funko Pops in a way. I like.
Yeah, Nendoroids are way better. They have so much more personality. Way better, and you can switch their parts and everything and put them in poses.
Faces. I mean, Snake's smoking on mine, but I actually have the.
You have different hands
as well.
One hand can hold the guns. Yeah, exactly. That's the SOCOM hand.
All different guns and stuff like that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was another topic that Smooth suggested that we didn't have time to get to, so let's save that.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Nendoroids, though, the way to get Nendoroids though is get them on eBay because they tend to go really cheap. Like you can usually get Nendoroids that if you buy them new directly from the company, they're like $100, but if you get it on eBay, it's like 20. So I mean, they might be knockoffs, but if they're good enough, then whatever.
They're good enough. They're good enough.
If they look like the statue, then whatever, it's the statue.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. So, and then what I got going on is I'm going to be doing a little bit more game streaming because I don't really do that very often.
You should.
And to kind of kick that off, something I'm going to be doing is the True Achievements community that I'm really plugged in with. They do really fun community events every once in a while, and every December they do pretty much everyone's favorite event is the 12 Days of Christmas. So to be starting off, I'm going to be streaming all of my 12 Days of Christmas achievement hunting. So I'm actually going to be starting that here probably in the next 30 minutes after we sign off here. Take a little break, and then I'm going to start streaming my 12 Days of Christmas, and I'm going to have if anyone's in the chat, I'm going to have them help me decide what I'm going to go after to fulfill the requirements for these events. So if you want to come watch me stream some games and help decide what I'm going to be streaming to get those achievements, come hang out with me, and I'll be doing that until I complete the 12 Days of Christmas. Whenever might take all month, but I plan to stream it all. So.
Cool stuff.
And then so I don't have anything else planned other than that coming up, but I will probably be doing open mic again on Thursday night unless something comes up. I don't have a guest lined up yet, so if anyone wants to be a guest on open mic on Thursday night, let me know. You want to come on and just talk open, not have any topics?
I don't mind. We can do that. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty much free for the rest of the week, so.
I know that you are like a bunch of hours ahead of me, so we'll have to figure out the timing if that works for you. But I will talk to you afterwards about that. So,
sure.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for episode 11 of Party Chat. I can't believe it's already been an episode 11 episodes.
Lucky number.
So, cool. But thank you everyone for joining us in chat. Thank you, Smoo and Mark, as always. And I look forward to next time. And we will see you next time, everyone. And in the meantime, game on.